Every morning when you open your eyes, life silently asks you a question. Will you choose to live in heaviness, replaying the same burdens of yesterday, or will you rise with a mind that deliberately chooses happiness, peace, and joy? Happiness is not something that randomly falls upon us. It is not a reward that comes only after we achieve wealth, recognition, or perfection. Happiness is a daily choice, an inner discipline, and a practice of the mind. Buddhism teaches us that joy is already present within us, but our untrained minds often overlook it, chasing fleeting desires or clinging to sorrows. If you truly wish to transform your mornings and live with lightness throughout the day, you must train your mind, just as you would train your body, to awaken happiness again and again. In this teaching, we will explore 7 powerful lessons that can guide you each morning to consciously choose happiness, to strengthen your mind against negativity, and to create a life where joy becomes your natural state. 1. Begin with gratitude before the world touches you. The very first moments of your morning are more powerful than most people realize because they set the emotional tone for everything that follows. The way you think, feel, and act throughout the day is often shaped by what you allow into your mind in those fragile first minutes after waking. If you immediately reach for your phone, scroll through news or social media, or jump straight into work tasks, you are handing over your peace of mind to the outside world before you have even greeted yourself. Instead, choose to pause, to sit quietly, and to welcome the new day with a heart that remembers the blessings that are still present. Gratitude in the morning is like laying a foundation for a strong house. If the base is solid, everything else that is built upon it will be steady and balanced. Gratitude does not mean pretending your life is perfect or ignoring the struggles that you may be carrying. It is not about denying pain or covering up difficulties with false positivity. Rather, it is about choosing to see that even in the middle of imperfection, beauty still exists. It is about noticing that although you may have problems, you also have breath. And as long as there is breath, there is possibility. When you place your focus on what you still have instead of what you lack, your mind shifts from heaviness to lightness. You begin the day with a sense of abundance instead of scarcity, with trust instead of fear. Think about it this way. 2 people can wake up in the same city on the same morning under the same sky. One opens his eyes, sees the soft sunlight entering his room, and feels grateful for the chance to experience another sunrise. He thanks life, even if silently, for giving him another opportunity to live, to improve, to love. The other person opens his eyes and instantly remembers unpaid bills, arguments, or responsibilities waiting for him. He curses the day before it has even begun. Both people live in the same world, but one carries light into his day, while the other carries darkness. Their external circumstances are not different. It is their choice of focus that shapes their experience. When you train your mind to begin each morning with gratitude, you are not only creating a moment of peace, but you are also planting a seed that grows throughout the day. Gratitude is like a lens. Once you put it on in the morning, everything you see appears in softer, kinder colors. Problems that might have felt overwhelming seem smaller, and blessings that were invisible begin to reveal themselves. By whispering gratitude before the world has a chance to touch you, you anchor yourself in joy and build a shield against the noise, stress, and negativity that may try to enter later. A grateful morning does not guarantee a perfect day, but it does guarantee that no matter what happens, you have already decided to begin from a place of strength, peace, and abundance. And this choice, though small, is powerful enough to change the entire flow of your life. 2. See your thoughts as clouds, not commands. The moment you wake up, your mind begins to stir, often before you even open your eyes. Thoughts rush in, memories of yesterday, worries about what lies ahead, judgments about yourself or others. Some thoughts feel light while others feel heavy, pulling you down before the day even starts. The untrained mind believes every thought, obeys every word of self-doubt, and reacts to every image of fear it produces. But Buddhism teaches us that thoughts are not absolute truths. They are like clouds drifting across the vast open sky. Some clouds are bright and harmless, others dark and heavy, but none of them have the power to damage the sky itself. You are not your thoughts. You are the vastness in which they come and go. When you learn to see thoughts as clouds, you stop giving them unquestioned authority over your emotions. For example, if the thought arises, "I am not good enough to succeed," the untrained mind believes it, feels defeated, and carries that weight into the day. But a mindful mind sees the thought for what it is, just a passing cloud, formed by past conditioning or fear, drifting into awareness, and soon to drift away again. You don't need to chase it, fight it, or build your identity around it. You simply observe it and let it pass. This simple shift frees you from unnecessary suffering because you no longer confuse your temporary mental weather with your true self. Imagine waking up on a stormy morning. If you forget that the sky exists beyond the clouds, you might think the entire world is grey and hopeless. But if you remember that above the storm is always a vast openness untouched by rain, you find comfort and perspective. Your mind works the same way. A negative thought may appear like a storm cloud, but it does not mean your entire being is broken. You are the sky, not the storm. When you see this clearly, you stop being dragged into every fear, every memory, every judgment that arises, and instead rest in the awareness that is beyond them all. This does not mean you ignore your thoughts or pretend they don't exist. Clouds are real, and so are thoughts. But the difference lies in how you relate to them. If you see them as commands, you live like a puppet, pulled by every string of the mind. But if you see them as passing visitors, you gain freedom. You can choose which thoughts to give attention to and which to release. This choice is the root of inner peace. Start practicing this in the morning. As you wake, notice the first thoughts that arise. Perhaps you think, "I don't want to face this day," or "I'm still tired," or "there's too much to do." Instead of believing them immediately, pause and ask yourself, is this thought the truth, or is it just a cloud passing by? When you detach from automatic belief, you discover that many of your thoughts are not reality. They are habits, fears, or echoes of yesterday. The more you practice, the lighter you become. You realize you do not need to control every thought or silence your mind completely. You only need to shift your relationship with your thoughts. This is what mindfulness truly is, the ability to observe without being enslaved. And when you can begin your morning with this wisdom, the rest of the day feels lighter because you are no longer tossed around by the storms of your mind. Freedom begins when you remember, thoughts are clouds, you are the sky. Happiness begins when you choose not to let passing clouds dictate the weather of your soul. 3. Smile with intention, even if you don't feel like it. At first glance, the idea of smiling when you don't feel like it may seem strange, even artificial. Many people think a smile should only appear naturally as a response to happiness. But both Buddhist wisdom and modern science remind us of something powerful. The body and mind are deeply connected, and sometimes the body can lead the mind toward joy just as much as the mind can influence the body. A smile, even when intentional, is like planting a seed of light within you. It may feel small at first, but if nurtured, it can grow into a tree of calmness and happiness that shapes your entire day. When you wake up in the morning, your face often mirrors your state of mind. If you rise with heaviness, your features reflect it. Your brow furrows, your lips tighten, your eyes look tired. Without realizing it, you carry this expression into the world, and the energy of your face influences not only how others respond to you, but also how you feel about yourself. Now, imagine instead that in those first minutes you deliberately soften your face, lift the corners of your lips, and allow yourself to smile. Not a forced, exaggerated grin, but a gentle, intentional smile directed inward. In that moment, you are telling your body and spirit, I am open to happiness today. I welcome joy, even if it hasn't fully arrived yet. This subtle act is enough to shift your inner chemistry and begin to open the door to positivity. Think of the smile not as a mask, but as a signal. You are not pretending that all your problems are gone. You are reminding yourself that no matter the struggles you face, you still have the power to meet them with a softer heart. A smile is a quiet rebellion against despair. It is saying to the world, I choose to rise above my heaviness. Even on the days when you feel burdened, your smile can be the small light that prevents you from sinking deeper into darkness. In Buddhist practice, smiling is often encouraged during meditation, even if no external reason for joy exists in that moment. Why? Because the act of smiling helps release tension in the body, calms the nervous system, and reminds the practitioner to sit in peace rather than in struggle. When you smile, your body produces endorphins, those natural chemicals that lift your mood and ease stress. This means that even if you start the day with a heavy heart, the act of smiling can begin to create the inner conditions for happiness. It is not about denying your emotions. It is about offering yourself the possibility of healing through a simple gesture. Picture two scenarios. In the first, a man wakes up and allows his stress to shape his face. He frowns as he looks at his calendar, sighs heavily as he thinks about his responsibilities, and drags himself into the day with the weight of his expression pulling him down. In the second, another man wakes up to the same responsibilities, the same calendar, and the same challenges, but he stands in front of the mirror, takes a deep breath, and chooses to smile gently. His problems have not disappeared, but his relationship with them has shifted. His body feels lighter, his mind more open, and his spirit carries a sense of resilience. This difference comes not from circumstances, but from the small act of choosing a smile. When you practice smiling intentionally in the morning, you begin to rewire your mind. Over time, it becomes easier to return to happiness because your body remembers the path. Smiling becomes less of a conscious effort and more of a natural state, like returning to a familiar home. And as you walk through your day, others feel it too. A genuine smile has the power to soften hearts, to ease tension, and to spread positivity far beyond yourself. The happiness you cultivate becomes a gift to everyone you meet. So tomorrow morning, before the noise of the world touches you, look at yourself in the mirror and smile, not because everything is perfect, not because life is easy, but because you are alive, and that alone is enough reason to choose joy. Smile as a way of saying thank you. Smile as a way of opening your heart. Smile as a way of reminding yourself that happiness is a choice you are willing to practice. And in that practice, you will discover that a simple smile can become one of the most powerful tools to transform your mornings and your life. 4. Breathe as if life depends on this one breath. Every day you take thousands of breaths, yet how many of them do you actually notice? Breathing is so natural, so constant, that it often fades into the background, like a quiet rhythm you forget is keeping you alive. But when you pause and give full attention to a single breath, you realize it is not ordinary at all. This breath is life itself. Without it, nothing else. Your plans, your worries, your achievements would matter. To breathe mindfully is to awaken to the most fundamental miracle of being alive. In Buddhism, mindful breathing is at the heart of practice. Monks spend years training themselves to come back again and again to the breath, because it is the bridge between the body and the mind, the anchor that roots you in the present. Most of the suffering we carry is not in the present. It is in the past we keep replaying, or the future we keep fearing. But the breath pulls us back to now, reminding us that this moment is enough. When you wake up in the morning and take 3 deep, conscious breaths, you are declaring to yourself, I am here, I am alive, and this moment is a gift. Think of what happens when you do not breathe with awareness. The morning starts, and immediately your mind races ahead. You think about your schedule, the messages you must reply to, the people who expect something from you, the endless tasks waiting. Without realizing it, you are no longer in your body. You are lost in a future that has not yet happened. Anxiety grows, tension builds, and you carry this stress throughout the day. But if in those first moments of waking, you place your hand on your chest, feel your lungs expand, and follow the rise and fall of your breath, something shifts. You realize that you are not yet in the future, and you do not need to be. You are here, in this breath, and in this breath there is peace. Breathing deeply and consciously is not just a calming trick, it is a reminder of the fragility and preciousness of life. Consider how often we take breath for granted until it is threatened. A person struggling with illness knows the value of one clear breath. Someone underwater, running out of air, feels how priceless it is. Yet in ordinary moments, when breath flows freely, we forget it is the very essence of our existence. By paying attention to your breath each morning, you reconnect with the truth that life itself is a miracle that does not need to be earned. There is also a physical power in mindful breathing. When you breathe slowly and deeply, your nervous system shifts from stress to calm. Your heart rate steadies, your muscles relax, and your mind clears. It is as if your entire being hears the message, you are safe, you are present, you are alive. This state of calmness is the perfect foundation for happiness, because happiness cannot flourish in a restless and scattered mind. Imagine 2 people again. One wakes up and jumps straight into the chaos of the day, checking messages, rushing through breakfast, moving quickly without ever pausing. His breathing is shallow, his body tense, his mind already racing. By mid-morning, he feels drained, as if the day is pulling him in every direction. The other person wakes up, sits quietly for just a few minutes, and takes slow, intentional breaths. He feels the cool air enter, the warmth of air leaving, and notices the miracle of simply existing. His body softens, his mind becomes clear, and he enters the day with presence rather than panic. The difference between them is not their responsibilities, but their relationship with the breath. Breathing mindfully also teaches you another important truth. Happiness is not something far away, something you must chase in the future. It is available here and now, in the very act of being alive. When you take a conscious breath, you realize you do not need to wait for happiness to arrive. You can touch it immediately, because life itself is already a reason for joy. So tomorrow morning, before you rush into the noise of the world, pause and take 3 conscious breaths. Feel the air filling your lungs as if it were the most precious gift. With each inhale, welcome life. With each exhale, release tension and fear. Say to yourself silently, this breath is enough. If you can begin your day in this way, you will discover that peace does not depend on what the day brings. It depends on how you choose to breathe through it. When you train your mind to honor the breath each morning, you are not just surviving, you are awakening. And when you awaken, happiness ceases to be something you chase. It becomes the natural state of a mind rooted in the present moment. 5. Detach from yesterday's baggage. One of the greatest obstacles to happiness is not what happens today, but what we insist on carrying from yesterday. The mind, by its very nature, loves to hold on. It clings to old mistakes, painful memories, regrets, arguments, and disappointments, as if replaying them will somehow change what has already passed. But in reality, the opposite is true. The more we cling to yesterday's baggage, the heavier we become, and the harder it is to step freely into the new day that life has placed before us. If you want to train your mind to choose happiness every morning, you must learn the art of letting go. You must remind yourself that yesterday is already finished, that no amount of thinking can rewrite what is gone, and that freedom begins the moment you release what no longer serves you. Consider the way most people wake up. The body rises, but the mind does not enter the present. It is already traveling back to yesterday, remembering the harsh words spoken, the mistake made, the opportunity missed, the disappointment that lingered. Before the day has even begun, the heart is heavy, weighed down not by what is happening now, but by the ghosts of what has already ended. Carrying this baggage into a new day is like stepping into a fresh garden with arms full of trash. Instead of noticing the flowers blooming, the sunlight filtering through leaves, or the fresh fragrance of the morning air, your attention is consumed by the weight you drag with you. Happiness is always present, but it cannot be experienced if you are too busy carrying the burdens of yesterday. Buddhism teaches us the principle of impermanence, that everything in life is constantly changing, that no joy and no sorrow lasts forever. Yesterday's experiences, whether painful or pleasant, are gone like waves that crash on the shore and then return to the sea. Holding on to them is like trying to grasp water in your hands. The tighter you squeeze, the faster it slips away. Yet the human mind, trapped in its habits, tries to hold on. We replay conversations endlessly, punishing ourselves with what-ifs and if-onlys. We carry anger toward others, believing it keeps us strong, when in truth it only poisons our own heart. We carry guilt toward ourselves, believing it makes us responsible, when in truth it only robs us of the chance to begin again. Letting go of yesterday's baggage does not mean you erase your past or pretend it did not happen. It means you choose not to drag it into today. It means you recognize that yesterday is a closed chapter and that carrying its pain will not change its story. Forgiveness plays a central role here. Forgiveness does not mean you approve of the wrongs done to you. It means you refuse to let those wrongs control you any longer. To forgive others is to free your heart from resentment. To forgive yourself is to free your spirit from shame. Both are necessary if you want to meet the morning with lightness instead of heaviness. Think of two travelers beginning a journey. One carries a light bag with only what is necessary, while the other drags behind a huge sack filled with unnecessary objects collected from every stop along the way. After a short distance, the first traveler walks easily, noticing the scenery, enjoying the fresh air. The second traveler grows tired quickly, resentful of the weight, and misses the beauty along the path because his entire focus is on the burden. Life works the same way. When you carry yesterday's pain, yesterday's grudges, yesterday's regrets, you rob yourself of the ability to enjoy today's blessings. But when you walk lightly, carrying only what is essential, gratitude, awareness, love, you discover that the path itself becomes joyful. Each morning, give yourself a small ritual of release. As you sit quietly before beginning your day, bring to mind the weight you are carrying from yesterday. Perhaps it is an argument with someone you love, a mistake at work, or an unresolved fear that lingered through the night. Picture this weight as an object you are holding in your hands. Now imagine placing that object in a basket and leaving the basket at the doorway of yesterday. Tell yourself, this belongs to the past. I will not carry it into today. Then step forward into the new day with empty hands, ready to embrace what is fresh and possible. This visualization may seem simple, but over time it trains your mind to release instead of cling, to start again instead of dragging what is dead into what is alive. Detaching from yesterday also means shifting your perspective about mistakes. So many people punish themselves endlessly for what they did or did not do. They replay moments again and again, wishing they had acted differently. But the truth is that mistakes are not chains meant to imprison you. They are teachers meant to guide you. If you view them with wisdom, they give you clarity and strength. But if you view them with attachment, they only give you suffering. Every mistake already belongs to yesterday. Today is not meant to be a repeat of that mistake. It is meant to be a fresh opportunity to live more wisely. When you understand this, you stop clinging to guilt and start walking with freedom. The same applies to the pain caused by others. Many people wake up still carrying the sting of an insult, the betrayal of a friend, or the cruelty of a stranger. But carrying this pain into today gives your enemy more power than they deserve. It is like drinking poison every morning and expecting someone else to suffer. Forgiveness is the antidote. When you forgive, you are not saying what they did was right. You are saying, "I will not allow your action to destroy my peace." This act of releasing gives you back control of your own happiness. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning with no baggage at all. No regrets from yesterday, no anger toward anyone, no guilt eating away at your spirit. Just a fresh, open heart, ready to experience the day as it is. How light would you feel? How different would your choices be? That freedom is possible, but only if you train your mind to let go. So when you wake up, remind yourself, yesterday is gone. Its mistakes cannot be undone. Its joys cannot be replayed. Its pain cannot be erased. But today is alive, breathing, waiting for you. Do not let yesterday steal it. Every morning is a chance to begin again, to walk lightly, to notice the beauty around you, and to create new joy. Happiness cannot be found in the baggage of the past. It can only be found in the openness of the present. When you detach from yesterday's baggage, you do more than lighten your morning, you transform your entire life. Because the truth is, happiness is not something blocked by external events, but by the weight of what we refuse to put down. And once you put it down, you realize that joy was waiting for you all along, as close as your breath, as near as your smile, as present as this very moment. 6. Set a simple, joyful intention. When most people wake up, they do so without direction. Their eyes open, and almost immediately their minds are captured by the noise of the world. Notifications, deadlines, responsibilities, or lingering worries. They rise from bed and step into the day without ever pausing to ask themselves what kind of day they want to create, what energy they want to carry, or what attitude they want to embody. Without realizing it, they drift through the hours like a leaf carried by the wind, pushed in every direction by circumstances and emotions. And because there is no anchor, no compass guiding them, even the smallest disruption, a rude comment, a delay in traffic, a mistake at work, feels overwhelming. This is the life of someone who begins the day without intention. Buddhism teaches us the importance of setting intentions, not as rigid goals that force the world to bend to our will, but as gentle guides that align our mind and heart with peace. An intention is like planting a seed in the soil of your consciousness. It is small, often quiet, but it has the power to grow into a tree that shades your entire day. Unlike goals, which focus on achievement, intentions focus on being. They are less about what you accomplish and more about how you show up to each moment. This difference is subtle but profound, and it is what makes intention such a powerful practice for cultivating daily happiness. Think of it this way. A ship without a compass may drift endlessly, tossed by waves and winds, never knowing where it will land. But a ship with even a simple compass has direction. It may face storms, it may be delayed, but it always knows where it is headed. Your mind is the same. Without an intention, it is pulled aimlessly by moods, habits, and outside pressures. But with even a simple, joyful intention, you gain direction. You know how you want to move through the day, and this clarity protects your peace. The beauty of intention is that it does not need to be complicated. In fact, the most powerful intentions are often the simplest. For example, in the morning you might say to yourself, "Today I will speak kindly," or "Today I will notice something beautiful," or "Today I will not rush." These intentions may seem small, but they have a ripple effect. A single kind word can change the course of a conversation. A moment of noticing beauty, a flower on the side of the road, the softness of the morning sky, can lift your spirit and remind you of life's gifts. Choosing not to rush, even in a busy schedule, can create space for calmness and clarity. By setting an intention, you train your mind to look for opportunities to embody it. If your intention is kindness, you begin to notice chances to hold the door for someone, to smile at a stranger, to soften your words when irritation arises. If your intention is mindfulness, you begin to notice when your mind wanders and gently return to the present. If your intention is patience, you recognize moments of frustration as opportunities to practice calmness. In this way, an intention is like a lens through which you view the world. Without it, you see life as random and chaotic. With it, you see life as purposeful and meaningful. Imagine two people starting the same day. The first person wakes up with no intention, immediately checks his phone and reacts to whatever he sees. Bad news, unanswered messages, or social media that makes him compare himself to others. He carries this reactive energy into his work, into his relationships, and into his inner dialogue. The second person wakes up, takes a few breaths, and sets a clear but simple intention. Today, I will look for peace in small moments. As the day unfolds, both face challenges. The first person reacts with stress because he has no compass. The second, guided by his intention, looks for small moments of calm, even in difficulty. When he drinks his morning tea, he pauses and tastes it fully. When he faces a delay, he uses it as a chance to breathe instead of complain. His challenges are not less real, but his way of meeting them is transformed. This is the power of intention. It does not remove problems from your life, but it changes the way you approach them. It turns ordinary events into opportunities for growth. It turns difficulties into reminders of strength. And most importantly, it turns each day into a conscious choice rather than an unconscious repetition. Setting an intention is also an act of self-empowerment. It is you declaring, "I am not a victim of the world. I have the power to shape how I respond, how I live, how I experience my day." Many people believe happiness depends on what happens to them, but intention teaches you that happiness also depends on how you choose to meet life. By aligning your heart with joy each morning, you discover that happiness is not a prize handed to you by circumstances. It is a state you can create from within. There are many ways to practice intention. Some people write their intention in a journal each morning, others repeat it silently during meditation, and others simply carry it in their heart throughout the day. What matters is not the method, but the sincerity. Your intention should feel alive to you, something that stirs your spirit. It should be realistic enough to guide you in daily life, but meaningful enough to inspire you. A beautiful way to strengthen this practice is to connect your intention with your breath. As you inhale in the morning, silently say your intention. For example, "I choose peace." As you exhale, release anything that blocks it. "I let go of fear." By tying intention to the breath, you weave it into your body and your mind, anchoring it more deeply. Each breath becomes a reminder of how you want to live, so that even in the busyness of the day, you can return to that inner compass. Remember, intentions are not about perfection. Some days you may forget your intention or fail to live up to it fully. That is natural. The practice is not about flawless execution. It is about returning again and again to what matters. Each morning gives you a new chance. Each breath gives you another opportunity. In this way, intention becomes less of a daily habit and more of a way of life. So tomorrow morning, before the rush of the world touches you, ask yourself, what kind of energy do I want to carry into this day? What simple intention will guide me? Choose something joyful, something meaningful, and hold it close to your heart. Then let that intention shape the way you move, the way you speak, the way you think. Over time, you will see how these small choices accumulate into a life of greater peace, clarity, and happiness. When you set a joyful intention each morning, you are no longer drifting aimlessly. You are walking with purpose, even if the path is uncertain. And that purpose itself becomes a source of happiness, because a life guided by intention is a life guided by awareness. 7. Remember, happiness is a practice, not a prize. One of the greatest illusions most people live with is the belief that happiness is something waiting at the end of a long road. They imagine that once they achieve success, once they earn more money, once they find the perfect partner, once they buy the right house or car, then they will finally be happy. In this way, happiness is treated like a prize, a reward that life gives only after enough effort or enough struggle. But the truth, taught clearly in Buddhism, is very different. Happiness is not a prize that appears after conditions are met. It is a practice, something you cultivate in this moment, with what you have, where you are. The mind that waits for happiness in the future will never find it, because it keeps pushing joy further away. The mind that practices happiness now discovers that joy was always within reach. Think about how often you have told yourself, "I will be happy when..." Perhaps you thought, "I will be happy when I graduate," or "I will be happy when I get that job," or "I will be happy when I find love." And maybe, for a short while, happiness did appear when those conditions were met. But soon after, the mind moved the finish line. You achieved one thing, but then another desire took its place. The goalpost shifted, and happiness once again felt out of reach. This is the cycle of craving that Buddhism warns us about. The constant belief that joy lies just ahead, just beyond where you are now. But the truth is that happiness cannot be postponed until life becomes perfect, because perfection never arrives. Happiness is not in the future. It is in the practice of how you live today. To understand this, imagine a musician. The musician does not practice the instrument only to perform on stage once in a lifetime. They practice every day, not because each session is glamorous, but because practice itself is what makes the music possible. In the same way, happiness is not something that suddenly appears in a grand performance at the end of your struggles. It is the daily practice of gratitude, of mindfulness, of kindness, of presence. Every time you choose peace over anger, every time you notice beauty instead of complaining, every time you smile instead of frown, you are practicing happiness. It is built moment by moment, not achieved all at once. This idea can be difficult for the modern mind because we are conditioned to think of happiness as something to be earned. Society tells us that once you make it, once you are successful enough, attractive enough, respected enough, then happiness will come as a reward. But look closely and you will see countless examples of people who achieved everything they thought would bring joy, yet remained empty inside. Wealth, recognition, possessions. They may bring temporary excitement, but they cannot create lasting happiness, because happiness is not something external. It is internal, a state of mind, and like any state of mind, it must be practiced to grow strong. When you treat happiness as a practice, you also learn to embrace imperfection, because happiness does not mean every day will be easy, or that you will never feel sadness again. It means that even in difficulty, you remember to practice joy. Some mornings, happiness will feel natural, flowing easily like sunlight through an open window. Other mornings it may feel heavy, hidden behind clouds of worry or fatigue. But just as a monk returns to meditation even when the mind is restless, you return to your practice of happiness even when the heart feels heavy. And with repetition, it becomes easier. The more you practice, the more your mind learns to return to joy automatically, just as a well-trained body remembers how to move with strength and grace. There is great freedom in this realization. If happiness is a prize, then you are always dependent on circumstances outside your control. You must wait for the right job, the right person, the right event. But if happiness is a practice, then it is always within your reach, no matter what the outside world looks like. You do not need perfect conditions to be happy. You can practice happiness with very little, with a mindful breath, a smile, a word of gratitude, a moment of silence. This means that happiness is not something rare or fragile. It is something resilient, something that can grow even in the most difficult soil. Imagine waking up on a difficult morning. Perhaps problems are waiting for you, bills to pay, challenges at work, tension in relationships. If you see happiness as a prize, you will believe it is impossible to feel joy until those problems disappear. But if you see happiness as a practice, you will realize you can still choose to sit quietly with your breath, to notice the morning sky, to whisper gratitude for the chance to live another day. The problems remain, but your relationship with them changes. Instead of being crushed by them, you carry them with more lightness, because your mind has already touched peace. Another way to understand happiness as a practice is to see it as a muscle. Just as you strengthen your body by exercising, you strengthen your capacity for joy by practicing it. If you neglect the body, it becomes weak. If you neglect happiness, your mind easily falls into negativity. But if you practice daily, if you train your mind to see blessings, to release what it cannot control, to be present, you grow strong in joy. Over time, even when difficulties come, they cannot shake your peace as easily, because your happiness is no longer fragile. It is deeply rooted, supported by years of practice. This does not mean happiness will always be easy. There will still be days of sorrow, moments of anger, seasons of loss. But even then, the practice of happiness is possible. You can grieve deeply while still practicing gratitude for the love you once received. You can feel pain while still noticing the beauty of the present moment. You can struggle while still choosing not to abandon yourself to despair. This is why Buddhism teaches that happiness is not about avoiding suffering, but about learning how to hold suffering with compassion while still choosing joy. So each morning when you open your eyes, remind yourself, happiness is not waiting somewhere in the distance. It is here, in this breath, in this moment, in the way you choose to live today. Set aside the illusion that joy will come only when life is perfect. Life will never be perfect, but your practice can make it meaningful. With each small act, smiling, forgiving, noticing beauty, breathing mindfully, you are practicing happiness. And over time, those small acts weave together into a life that feels rich, peaceful, and full of joy. The truth is, happiness has always been with you. It is not hidden in the future. It is not locked in achievements. It is like a flame that may grow dim when neglected but never fully goes out. Each practice is a breath that feeds the flame, making it stronger, brighter, steadier. And when you realize this, you no longer chase happiness like a prize that is always out of reach. You live it, you embody it, you practice it. Every morning, every breath, every step. 8. Happiness is found in presence, not in possessions. One of the deepest causes of human dissatisfaction is the belief that happiness must be gathered from the outside, from the endless collection of things, titles, and achievements. The mind tells us, if only I had more money, more success, more recognition, then I would finally feel complete. And so we spend our days chasing, reaching, collecting, but no matter how much we acquire, the hunger never truly ends. Buddhism points out that this is because we are searching in the wrong place. Possessions may provide comfort, but they cannot provide lasting happiness. Lasting happiness is not something you can hold in your hand. It is something you can touch only in the present moment. When you wake up in the morning, notice where your mind immediately goes. For many people, it leaps into desire. They think about what they do not yet have, what they must accomplish, what they must buy, what is missing from their life. This creates a feeling of lack before the day even begins, as if happiness has been locked away until those desires are met. But if you pause and return to presence, if you notice your breath, the sunlight, the gift of simply being alive, you discover that happiness is already here. It does not need to be chased. It only needs to be noticed. Think of a child playing outside. The child does not need wealth or status to be joyful. A stick becomes a sword, a puddle becomes an ocean, a game of imagination becomes a whole world of delight. Why is the child so happy? Because the child is fully present. They are not worrying about tomorrow's struggles or yesterday's regrets. They are absorbed completely in the moment. As adults, we lose this ability. We become so focused on collecting possessions and protecting our image that we forget how to live in the simplicity of now. But the truth is, the child within us is still there, waiting to be awakened whenever we choose presence over possessions. Possessions are not evil. There is nothing wrong with enjoying comfort or beauty. But problems arise when we tie our happiness to them, because possessions can be lost. Wealth can disappear. Fame fades. Even the body itself is impermanent. If your happiness depends on things that can be taken away, then your happiness will always be fragile. But if your happiness is rooted in presence, in the awareness of this breath, this moment, this life, then no loss can fully destroy it. This is why monks, who live with almost nothing, often radiate a joy that even the wealthy envy. Their happiness does not come from what they own. It comes from how deeply they live in the present. To practice this, begin each morning with presence. Before you think of what you want to buy, what you want to achieve, what you want to fix, simply sit and notice what already is. Notice the rhythm of your breath, the sensation of your body resting, the sounds around you. Notice that even without acquiring anything new, you are already alive, already supported, already enough. Presence reveals abundance, while possession-focused thinking reveals only lack. Another way to see this truth is to look at how desires operate. When you finally get what you desire, a new phone, a new car, a new promotion, happiness arises, but not because of the object itself. It arises because for a brief moment, the restless craving stops. Your mind says, "Now I am satisfied," and in that gap, joy emerges. But soon, the craving begins again, this time for something else. If you observe carefully, you will see that possessions do not actually create happiness. It is the temporary pause of craving that gives the illusion of joy. The object only triggers it. But if you learn to quiet craving without needing the object, you can touch that joy directly, at any time, in the present. This is why presence is so powerful. In presence, you do not need to wait for the next possession, the next achievement, the next validation. You can breathe, you can smile, you can notice life as it is, and joy arises naturally. This joy is not dependent on conditions. It is steady, reliable, and free. Imagine two people sitting in the same garden. One is lost in thought, worrying about money, comparing himself to others, planning what to buy next. He sees the flowers, but does not truly notice them. He hears the birds, but does not really listen. His mind is elsewhere, trapped in the cycle of desire. The other person simply sits, feeling the warmth of the sun, noticing the fragrance of the flowers, listening to the song of the birds. One person is surrounded by beauty but misses it, while the other person, with nothing more than presence, experiences happiness as if the world itself is a gift. The garden is the same. The difference is in where their minds are. Training yourself to find happiness in presence does not mean you give up goals or stop working for a better life. It means you stop postponing happiness until those goals are achieved. You still strive, you still dream, but you do not make your joy conditional on the outcome. You live fully in the present moment while walking toward the future. In this way, your life becomes lighter, because you no longer wait for happiness, you carry it with you. Presence also teaches you to appreciate small things. A warm cup of tea in the morning, a deep breath of fresh air, a smile from someone you love. These are treasures often ignored because we are too busy chasing bigger ones. But when you learn to pause and notice, you realize that these small joys are not small at all. They are the essence of life. Happiness is not hidden in extraordinary events. It is hidden in ordinary moments that you finally notice when you become present. So each morning as you rise, set aside the urge to immediately chase possessions. Instead, sit quietly and remind yourself, happiness is not in what I own. Happiness is in how I live this moment. With this awareness, you anchor yourself in presence. And as the day unfolds, whenever you feel the pull of desire, whenever you hear the voice saying, I need this to be happy, pause, breathe, and return to presence. Ask yourself, what joy is already here, waiting for me to notice? The more you practice this, the more you will discover a freedom you may have never felt before. Because when happiness is tied to possessions, it can be stolen, lost, or destroyed. But when happiness is rooted in presence, it is unshakable. No one can take it from you because it is not outside you. It is within you, available in every breath, in every moment, in every step you take. Remember, possessions may fill your house, but only presence can fill your heart. Possessions may impress others, but only presence can bring peace to your soul. Happiness built on possessions is temporary. Happiness built on presence is eternal. And once you learn this truth, you stop chasing, you stop waiting, and you begin living. 9. Happiness is the art of balance, not the absence of struggle. When people think of happiness, many imagine a life free from struggle, a life where problems disappear and everything flows without resistance. They picture happiness as a place where no storms touch them, no challenges disturb them, no suffering ever arises. But this is not true happiness. It is an illusion. Struggles will always come. Life itself is change. Health can shift, relationships can evolve, success can fade, loss can appear without warning. If happiness depends on the absence of struggle, then true joy will always be out of reach. Buddhism teaches us a deeper truth. Happiness is not the absence of struggle, but the art of balance within it. It is learning how to stand steady in the middle of storms, how to breathe calmly when chaos surrounds you, and how to cultivate inner peace even while carrying the weight of impermanence. Think of a person walking a tightrope. To the untrained eye, it may seem impossible, so narrow a path with danger on both sides. Yet the walker does not avoid imbalance by clinging to one side or another. They remain upright by constantly adjusting, constantly shifting, constantly balancing. Their stability does not come from the absence of movement, but from their graceful relationship with movement itself. Life works in the same way. Balance is not about eliminating difficulty, it is about learning to dance with it. Happiness is born not from escaping struggle, but from balancing yourself within it. Most people, however, misunderstand this and chase extremes. When life feels hard, they try to run from discomfort, drowning it in distraction, entertainment, or possessions. Others cling desperately to moments of pleasure, trying to hold them forever, and then suffering when they inevitably fade. Both extremes create imbalance. The more you resist pain, the heavier it feels. The more you cling to joy, the faster it slips away. Balance comes when you allow both joy and struggle to exist, without letting either one control you completely. Consider how the natural world reflects this truth. Day and night, heat and cold, growth and decay, all exist in balance. No tree demands eternal sunlight. It bends with storms, sheds its leaves in autumn, and trusts that spring will come again. A river flows with calmness, but also with power, moving around rocks instead of fighting them. Nature does not expect perfection. It flows with balance, and because of that, it thrives. The human mind must learn to do the same. In daily life, balance means allowing space for both effort and rest. It means pursuing goals without becoming consumed by them. It means caring for others while also caring for yourself. It means acknowledging sadness without drowning in it, and welcoming joy without clinging to it. This balance is delicate, yet it is the foundation of sustainable happiness. Without balance, life swings wildly, moments of excitement followed by deep exhaustion, bursts of pleasure followed by emptiness. With balance, life flows steadily, like a calm river that nourishes everything along its path. To practice balance, begin by observing your reactions. When discomfort arises, stress at work, conflict in relationships, disappointment in yourself, notice how quickly the mind wants to push it away. It says, "This should not be happening. I must escape this feeling." But when you resist reality, you double your suffering. The event itself is one form of pain, but your resistance adds another layer. Instead, practice balance by accepting that discomfort is part of the human experience. Say to yourself, "This is difficult, but it does not have to steal my peace." You acknowledge the struggle, but you do not hand over your happiness to it. The same applies to pleasure. When joy arrives, success, love, laughter, the unbalanced mind clings desperately, fearing its loss. But clinging suffocates joy. It turns sweetness into fear, because every moment is shadowed by anxiety about when it will end. Balance means fully enjoying pleasure while knowing it is temporary, savoring it without chains, releasing it when it passes. In this way, both sorrow and joy are held with equal grace, and happiness remains steady no matter which arises. Another layer of balance is between the inner world and the outer world. Many people focus entirely on external success, pouring their energy into careers, possessions, and recognition, while neglecting the inner life of peace, compassion, and mindfulness. Others retreat so deeply into inner practice that they withdraw from responsibilities, relationships, and meaningful action in the world. True balance lies in walking both paths, nourishing the inner world so that the outer world can be lived with wisdom, and engaging with the outer world in a way that strengthens the inner. Meditation in the morning is balance, but so is a kind word to a stranger. Silence is balance, but so is courageous action when it is needed. One of the greatest practices for cultivating balance is mindfulness. Mindfulness teaches you to return again and again to the middle path. For example, if you notice yourself working too hard, mindfulness whispers, "Pause, rest." If you notice yourself avoiding effort out of fear, mindfulness whispers, "Engage, try." If you notice yourself clinging to joy, it whispers, "Savor, but let go." If you notice yourself drowning in pain, it whispers, "Feel, but don't remain." In this way, mindfulness acts as the handrail of the tightrope, guiding you back whenever you lean too far. Balance is also about how you treat yourself. Many people are harsh with themselves, pushing relentlessly, criticizing every flaw, punishing every mistake. Others are too lenient, giving up easily, never challenging themselves, letting life slip away in laziness. Happiness is not found in either extreme. It is found in balance, discipline mixed with compassion, effort mixed with gentleness. When you practice balance with yourself, you no longer swing between self-punishment and self-indulgence. You walk the middle path of steady growth, supported by kindness toward your own humanity. Imagine your mind as a scale. On one side is pain, on the other side is joy. Life will always place weights on both sides, struggles, blessings, losses, victories. If you try to remove all the weights of pain, you will fail because pain is part of existence. If you cling too tightly to the weights of joy, you will suffer when they shift. The only way is to learn balance, to accept both sides, to find stability in the middle. When the scale wobbles, you gently adjust. When it steadies, you rest in peace. This is the art of balanced living. Start practicing balance every morning. Before the day begins, reflect. Today I may face both joy and struggle. I will welcome both without clinging to one or rejecting the other. I will walk the middle path. Carry this intention with you, and when the day unfolds, let it guide your responses. If stress appears, breathe and remind yourself, this is part of life, but it does not have to destroy my peace. If happiness appears, smile and remind yourself, this is a gift, but I will not cling to it. In this way, you train your mind to remain balanced, steady, unshaken. The greatest joy of balance is that it creates freedom. When you stop fearing struggle, you stop running from life. When you stop clinging to joy, you stop fearing its loss. You live fully, openly, gracefully, knowing that happiness does not depend on eliminating one side of existence, but on balancing both. Life becomes lighter, not because it is free of storms, but because you have learned how to sail through them. So remember, happiness is not a life without struggle. It is the art of balance, the ability to hold joy and pain in the same heart without losing yourself to either. It is the strength to walk the middle path, steady and present, no matter what the day brings. And once you learn this art, happiness is no longer something fragile or temporary. It becomes a deep, unshakable peace, carried with you through every season of life. Happiness grows when you serve others without losing yourself. One of the deepest teachings of Buddhism is the realization that happiness is not something we create only for ourselves. Happiness multiplies when it is shared. Compassion, kindness, and service are not just noble acts. They are powerful practices that expand the heart and dissolve the illusion of separation. Yet there is also a danger. When we give without balance, we can lose ourselves, becoming drained and resentful. This is why true happiness requires learning how to serve others while also protecting your own peace. It is a delicate harmony, giving without emptiness, loving without exhaustion, caring without losing your center. When most people think of happiness, they often think of what they can get. They believe joy is found in acquiring possessions, achievements, experiences. But the truth, as countless spiritual masters have shown, is that happiness is most alive when it flows outward. Think of a candle. When it lights another candle, it does not lose its own flame. In fact, the light doubles. The same happens with the heart. When you share your compassion, when you bring comfort to another, your own happiness expands. You feel lighter because you are no longer locked inside the prison of self-centered thinking. The boundaries between me and you dissolve, and you touch the truth of our shared humanity. Yet this is not about sacrificing yourself blindly. Many people misunderstand compassion and believe it means giving endlessly, even at the cost of their own health and peace. But this creates imbalance. When you give to others while neglecting yourself, you eventually run dry. Your kindness becomes forced, your service becomes heavy, and instead of spreading joy, you spread exhaustion. This is why Buddhism teaches balance. To care for others deeply while also caring for yourself, to serve without attachment, to give without self-destruction. True service flows from fullness, not from emptiness. Imagine a person who spends all their energy trying to please everyone around them. They say yes to every request. They sacrifice their rest. They abandon their own needs. On the outside, they look like they are serving others. But inside, they feel depleted, invisible, unappreciated. Their kindness becomes mixed with bitterness because it was never grounded in balance. Now imagine another person. Each morning they take time to ground themselves, breathing, centering, connecting with their own peace. From that fullness, they give. They help when they can. They offer kindness. They listen deeply, but they also know their limits. They say no when necessary. They rest when needed. They honor their own boundaries. Their service is sustainable because it flows from a well that is constantly replenished. And because they care for themselves, their care for others is pure, joyful, and lasting. This is the secret to serving without losing yourself. You must first root yourself in presence. If you give without presence, your actions may be helpful, but your heart will not feel nourished. You will feel like a machine, constantly doing, constantly fixing, constantly running after others. But if you give with presence, if you are fully there in the moment, aware of your breath, aware of your heart, then your service becomes an expression of love, not obligation. You no longer give because you have to. You give because your joy naturally overflows into others. To practice this, begin your morning by setting an intention not just for yourself, but for the world around you. Ask yourself, how can I bring happiness to someone today? It does not need to be grand. A gentle smile, a kind word, a small act of patience, a moment of deep listening, all of these are powerful forms of service. Often, the smallest gestures carry the deepest impact. When you approach the day with this spirit, you transform ordinary encounters into opportunities for joy. The person you greet feels uplifted, and you too feel lighter, because giving is also receiving. But as you give, remember to watch your balance. Service must not come at the expense of your inner peace. If you feel yourself becoming exhausted, resentful, or invisible, pause and return to yourself. Ask, am I giving from fullness or from emptiness? If it is from emptiness, step back, breathe, and replenish. Remember the wisdom of the Buddha. You cannot pour from an empty cup. Caring for yourself is not selfishness. It is what makes true compassion possible. The mind often confuses self-care with selfishness, but they are not the same. Selfishness is when you only care for your own comfort, ignoring the needs of others. Self-care is when you tend to your own well-being, so that you have the strength to care for others sincerely. A flower must draw water from the earth to bloom. Only then can it share its fragrance. If it denies itself water, it withers and can no longer bring beauty to the world. You are the same. Nourish yourself with mindfulness, rest, and presence, and your compassion will bloom naturally. Consider the story of a monk walking through a village. Each morning, he carried a small bowl for alms. People gave him food, not because he demanded it, but because they knew his heart was pure, his service constant. But the monk did not take more than he needed. He accepted enough to sustain his life and his practice, and he shared the surplus with the poor. His life was an example of balance, receiving and giving, caring for himself and others, without excess, without emptiness. He understood that happiness grows not from hoarding, but from circulation. Joy flows like a river, nourishing both giver and receiver. The same principle applies in your life. When you help someone, when you ease their burden, when you bring a smile to their face, happiness is born in them, but it also echoes back to you. You realize that your life has meaning beyond your own desires. You feel connected to something larger, something shared, and in that connection, loneliness fades, selfishness weakens, and joy deepens. But the key is always balance. Give without clinging, serve without expecting reward, care without losing your center. In this way, service becomes a path to happiness, not a source of burnout. To anchor this truth more deeply, reflect on the difference between attachment and compassion. Attachment says, I must help you so I feel needed, so I feel valuable. This kind of giving is actually rooted in ego, and it drains you because it is never enough. Compassion says, I help you because I see myself in you. I give because my joy is connected to your joy. This giving flows effortlessly, without agenda, without chains. When you practice compassion instead of attachment, service becomes light, joyful, and freeing. So tomorrow morning, when you rise, remind yourself, happiness is not just about what you receive, it is about what you give. But let your giving flow from balance. Begin with yourself. Sit quietly, breathe deeply, connect with your own peace. Then, from that foundation, look outward. Ask, how can I bring light to someone today? It may be through a kind word, a patient silence, an act of generosity, or even just the calm energy you carry into a room. Each small act is a seed. Plant enough seeds, and soon the garden of happiness will bloom around you and within you. The beauty of this practice is that it creates a cycle of joy. The more you serve others mindfully, the more joy you feel. The more joy you feel, the more you naturally want to serve. And because you are serving from balance, not from depletion, the cycle is endless. Service does not empty you, it refills you. Compassion does not weaken you, it strengthens you. Happiness does not shrink when shared, it grows. Remember, happiness is not found in isolation, it is found in connection. But connection must be healthy, balanced, and mindful. When you learn the art of serving others without losing yourself, you create a life that is both joyful and sustainable. Your happiness becomes steady, your heart becomes expansive, and your life becomes meaningful, not because of what you own, but because of the love you embody. So let this be your practice. Each day, cultivate your inner peace, and then let that peace flow outward through service. In this balance, you will discover that happiness is not a private treasure, but a shared flame. The more you pass it on, the brighter it becomes, for you, for others, for the world. Happiness is freedom from comparison and the courage to walk your own path. One of the quietest, yet most destructive habits of the human mind is comparison. From the moment we are children, we are measured against others, who walks first, who speaks first, who scores higher. As we grow, the comparisons deepen. We look at friends, colleagues, strangers, and silently measure ourselves. Who is more successful? Who is more beautiful? Who is more loved? Who is more respected? This constant weighing creates a deep restlessness, because no matter where we stand, there is always someone who appears to have more. And as long as we chase happiness in comparison, it will always be fragile. True happiness can only grow when you stop comparing your path to others and have the courage to walk your own. Comparison is rooted in illusion. When you look at another person's life, you see only the surface, the polished image, the highlight moments, the smile they wear in public. You do not see their sleepless nights, their hidden insecurities, their private struggles. Yet the mind assumes the surface is the whole story and uses it as a weapon against you. You tell yourself, they are happier than me, they are more successful, they are more complete. But this is like comparing your behind-the-scenes footage to someone else's finished film. It will always feel unbalanced because you are not comparing truth to truth. You are comparing illusion to reality. Buddhism reminds us that each life is unique, like a wave in the ocean. No wave is identical to another, yet each has its place, its rhythm, its rise and fall. To compare waves is meaningless. One may rise higher, but it also crashes sooner. Another may be smaller, but it endures longer. Both are part of the same ocean. Both belong. Both are complete in their own way. When you compare, you forget that you, too, are a wave belonging to the great ocean of life. You do not need to rise like another wave. You only need to rise as yourself. The danger of comparison is that it steals presence. Instead of living fully in your own moment, you are constantly looking sideways, measuring your steps against another's. This creates jealousy, insecurity, and dissatisfaction. You could have a peaceful morning, a loving family, a meaningful purpose, yet the moment you see someone else with something you lack, your peace shatters. The truth is, comparison blinds you to your blessings. You become so focused on what you do not have that you forget to appreciate what you do. Consider two farmers. The first tends to his land daily, watering his crops, nourishing the soil, grateful for each sprout. He knows his land may be smaller, his harvest more modest, but he works with joy because it is his path, his field, his life. The second farmer spends each day staring over the fence at his neighbor's land. He compares the size, the growth, the color of the crops. Instead of tending his own field, he wastes energy on envy. When harvest comes, his land is barren, not because life denied him blessings, but because he neglected his own. Comparison does the same in your life. It distracts you from nourishing your own blessings, leaving you barren even when you could have been abundant. Freedom from comparison begins with awareness. Each time you notice yourself measuring your worth against another, pause. Ask, what do I truly know of their life? What do I truly know of mine? In that pause, you begin to see the illusion. You begin to remember that happiness is not about having what others have. It is about living fully in what is yours. But letting go of comparison also requires courage. The courage to walk your own path, even if it looks different. Society pressures us to follow the same markers. Education, career, wealth, family, success defined by titles and possessions. But your path may not align with these measures. You may find joy in simplicity while others chase luxury. You may find peace in slowness while others run toward ambition. You may find meaning in service while others pursue recognition. Walking your own path means trusting that your life does not need to look like anyone else's to be valuable. It means remembering that happiness is not measured by how high you climb in the eyes of others, but by how deeply you live in alignment with your truth. This is not easy. The world celebrates comparison. Social media amplifies it, showing curated moments designed to provoke envy. Advertisements thrive on it, convincing you that you are incomplete until you have what others display. To resist this pressure requires mindfulness and courage. It requires daily practice to remind yourself, I am enough as I am. My path is worthy. My pace is my own. Each time you choose this truth over comparison, you strengthen your freedom. One way to cultivate this freedom is through gratitude. Gratitude shifts your focus from what others have to what you already hold. When you sit in the morning and list your blessings, your breath, your body, your loved ones, your opportunities, you anchor yourself in abundance. Comparison cannot take root in a heart full of gratitude. Another practice is compassion. When you see someone succeeding instead of envy, practice celebrating them. Say to yourself, their joy does not diminish mine. Their light does not dim my light. In this way, you transform comparison into connection, jealousy into love. Another powerful practice is self-compassion. Often, comparison arises from harshness toward yourself. You believe you are not enough, and so you measure yourself against others to prove your worth. But when you learn to treat yourself with kindness, to see your struggles with gentle eyes, comparison weakens. You realize you are doing your best, and your best is enough. You realize that your value does not depend on outshining others, but on embracing your humanity. Imagine two travelers climbing a mountain. One keeps looking sideways, measuring his progress against the other. Each step is heavy, filled with frustration when he falls behind, filled with pride when he is ahead. But his mind is never at peace. He is never truly present with the climb itself. The other traveler focuses only on his own steps. He notices the stones, the air, the view. He moves at his pace, rests when needed, continues when ready. His climb may be slower, his path may be different, but his heart is calm. By the time both reach the peak, who has lived more fully? Happiness lies not in reaching first, but in walking your path with peace. The ultimate truth is that happiness cannot grow in the soil of comparison. It suffocates there, constantly poisoned by envy and dissatisfaction. Happiness grows in the soil of authenticity, when you water your own garden, walk your own path, honor your own rhythm. When you live this way, the success of others no longer threatens you. You see it as proof that joy is possible in many forms. You realize the world is not a race, but a vast field where every flower blooms in its season. So each morning, remind yourself, I do not need to compare. I do not need to compete. I choose to walk my path with courage, gratitude, and presence. Carry this truth with you, and you will find a freedom deeper than any prize comparison could ever give. You will discover that happiness does not come from being better than others. It comes from being fully yourself, authentic, balanced, alive. When you finally free yourself from comparison, you step into a vast, open space of peace. You no longer chase shadows, no longer weigh yourself against illusions. You live your own life, fully, joyfully, courageously. And in that freedom, you discover a happiness that no one can take away, because it was never dependent on anyone else. It was always within you, waiting for you to choose it. Happiness is the courage to embrace impermanence and flow with change. If there is one truth that shapes the entire human experience, it is impermanence. Everything we see, everything we touch, everything we love is in a constant state of change. The seasons shift, bodies age, relationships evolve, opportunities arise and disappear, joys come and go, and even sorrow, no matter how heavy, eventually transforms. Yet the human mind resists this truth. We cling desperately to what we love, fearing its loss, and we push away what we dislike, hoping it will never touch us. This clinging and resisting become the root of suffering. Happiness, therefore, is not found in controlling change, for change is inevitable, but in embracing impermanence and learning to flow with it. The courage to accept change, to live fully in the moment knowing it will pass, is the courage to live freely and joyfully. From the moment we are born, impermanence surrounds us. A child grows each day, never the same as yesterday. The body changes without asking for permission. The world itself shifts with time, technology, and circumstance. Yet instead of accepting this truth, most people spend their lives fighting it. They want youth to last forever, success to remain untouched, relationships to never alter. When change inevitably arrives, they feel betrayed, as if life has broken a promise. But life never promised permanence. It promised only movement, growth, and transformation. Buddhism teaches that suffering arises when we attach ourselves to what is temporary as if it were eternal. We try to freeze moments, but time keeps flowing. We try to hold people, but they keep changing. We try to secure happiness in possessions, but they decay and lose meaning. In this endless battle against impermanence, we exhaust ourselves. The wise, however, learn to step out of the battle. They recognize that impermanence is not an enemy, but a teacher. It reminds us that every moment is precious because it will not last. It reminds us not to cling too tightly, not to resist too strongly, but to walk with grace through the dance of change. Imagine sitting beside a river. The water flows continuously. No drop remains the same. You cannot step into the same river twice, for by the time you return, it has already changed. Life is like this river. To resist its flow is to drown. To accept its movement is to float. Those who cling to the rocks suffer, scraped and battered by the current. Those who release, who trust the flow, discover peace even as the water carries them to unknown places. Happiness grows when you stop clinging to the rocks of the past or the illusions of permanence and instead allow yourself to flow with the river of change. Clinging often comes from fear. We fear losing what we love, so we hold it tightly. But the tighter we hold, the more we strangle our joy. Think of holding a butterfly. If you cup it gently, it rests peacefully in your hands. But if you squeeze too tightly, you destroy it. Love, success, and happiness are the same. They must be held with openness, with the awareness that they may fly away at any time. When you love with this awareness, you stop demanding eternity from others. You appreciate the moments as they are, without needing them to last forever. This appreciation deepens your joy because you no longer miss the present while worrying about the future. Resistance arises from the same illusion. When sorrow comes, we resist. We say, "This should not be happening. I cannot accept this change." But resistance doubles the suffering. The event itself is painful, but our refusal to accept it adds another layer of pain. It is like being struck by two arrows. The first is life's arrow, unavoidable. The second is our own, created by our refusal to accept reality. The practice of embracing impermanence removes the second arrow. We still feel pain, but we no longer magnify it with resistance. Instead, we meet it with compassion and patience, trusting that this too shall pass, because nothing in life is fixed. This truth is not meant to create despair. On the contrary, it is meant to awaken appreciation. Because everything is impermanent, every moment becomes sacred. The laughter of a friend, the touch of a loved one, the beauty of a sunrise, these are not small things. They are fleeting miracles. To live with the awareness of impermanence is to live awake, cherishing what is here, instead of waiting for something more. It is to sip your tea slowly, knowing you may never have this exact moment again. It is to forgive quickly, knowing relationships can change in an instant. It is to love deeply, knowing tomorrow is not promised. One of the greatest gifts of impermanence is hope. Just as joy does not last forever, neither does sorrow. No storm lasts eternally. No winter holds back spring. If you are suffering, impermanence is your friend, whispering, "This too will pass." When grief weighs heavy, remember that even the heaviest night eventually turns to dawn. When fear holds you, remember that nothing in life remains the same, and change itself can bring healing. In this way, impermanence is not something to fear, but something to trust. Practicing acceptance of impermanence requires daily mindfulness. Each morning, remind yourself, "This day will never return." These moments are unique. When you eat, eat with presence, because that meal will never taste the same again. When you speak with someone, listen deeply, because that conversation will never repeat in exactly the same way. When you face difficulty, breathe and remind yourself, "This pain will change." It is not eternal. Each time you practice this awareness, you loosen the grip of fear and cultivate a mind that flows with change rather than fights it. Think of a lotus flower. It blooms in the muddiest waters, rising above the dirt to reveal beauty. But the bloom itself does not last forever. It opens with the sun, closes with the night, and eventually fades. Does this make the lotus less beautiful? No, it makes it more precious. Its impermanence is what gives it meaning. Life is the same. Its fleeting nature makes it valuable. If we lived forever, we would take every moment for granted. But because life is short, each moment is priceless. Happiness is born when you embrace this truth instead of denying it. Many people, however, try to secure permanence. They hold on to relationships long after love has faded, clinging not to the person, but to the illusion of forever. They hoard possessions, believing ownership will protect them from change, only to discover that possessions break, fade, or lose meaning. They chase youth, fearing the natural process of aging, and in their fear, they lose the beauty of growing wise. All of this resistance leads to suffering because it denies the natural rhythm of life. To embrace impermanence is to let go of illusions and live in harmony with truth. This does not mean you detach from life or stop loving. On the contrary, it means you love more fully, live more deeply, and give more freely. Because you know moments will pass, you cherish them while they are here. Because you know people will change, you honor them as they are now. Because you know possessions will fade, you use them with gratitude instead of clinging to them. This way of living transforms ordinary existence into extraordinary appreciation. So how do you practice flowing with impermanence? Start by observing small changes. Notice the way the sky shifts colors at sunrise, the way your body feels different from yesterday, the way your thoughts and moods change like passing clouds. See these changes not as threats, but as reminders of life's dynamic nature. Then extend this practice to larger changes. When relationships evolve, accept them with grace. When opportunities end, trust that new ones will come. When sorrow arrives, allow yourself to feel it, but hold the wisdom that it too will move. Meditation is a powerful tool here. Sit quietly and watch your breath. Notice how each inhale rises and each exhale falls. No breath is the same, yet each sustains you. This rhythm of change, repeated endlessly, is a mirror of life itself. The breath teaches you impermanence with every cycle, if you are willing to listen. When you connect to this truth, you no longer fear change. You see it as the natural heartbeat of existence. To embrace impermanence also requires trust. Trust that life, in its flow, carries you where you need to be. Trust that even endings have hidden beginnings. Trust that loss creates space for renewal. This trust is not blind. It is born from watching life itself and seeing that change, though sometimes painful, always leads to transformation. With this trust, you walk through life with open hands instead of clenched fists, open heart instead of closed fear. So each morning as you open your eyes, whisper to yourself, everything changes. This moment is precious. Let that awareness shape your day. Hug your loved ones more deeply, listen more carefully, forgive more quickly, live more fully. Do not postpone happiness, waiting for permanence to arrive. Permanence will never come, but joy will again and again if you are willing to embrace the flow of change. Happiness is not found in holding back the tide of impermanence. It is found in learning to dance with the waves. When you can love without clinging, accept without resisting, live without demanding eternity, you discover a freedom deeper than anything possessions or achievements can offer. You discover a joy that is resilient because it flows with life instead of against it. You discover the secret that all Buddhist practice points to, that impermanence, when embraced, is not the cause of suffering, but the gateway to peace. Happiness is simplicity. Releasing the weight of excess and returning to what truly matters. In today's world, people are surrounded by endless choices, endless distractions, and endless noise. The modern mind has been trained to believe that more always equals better. More possessions, more experiences, more recognition, more speed. But this hunger for more often leads not to peace, but to exhaustion. We accumulate until our homes are full, but our hearts are empty, until our calendars are overflowing, but our spirits are restless. The truth, which Buddhism reminds us gently yet firmly, is that happiness is not found in excess, but in simplicity. When you release what is unnecessary, when you stop running after more, you uncover the quiet joy that has been with you all along. Simplicity is not deprivation, it is clarity. It is the art of walking lightly, free from the burdens you never needed to carry. Look closely at the way people chase happiness. They believe that acquiring more will make them happy. A bigger house, a newer car, the latest phone, more clothes, more titles, more recognition. And for a short time, Each new acquisition brings a spark of joy, but soon the spark fades and the hunger returns. This endless cycle is what Buddhism calls samsara, the wheel of craving, where desires give rise to temporary pleasure but soon lead back to dissatisfaction. It is like drinking salt water. The more you drink, the thirstier you become. The mind that chases excess is never satisfied because it is always looking outside for what can only be found inside. Simplicity, on the other hand, breaks this cycle. When you live simply, you no longer measure happiness by how much you own, but by how fully you live. You stop confusing possessions with peace. You stop equating recognition with worth. You stop mistaking busyness for meaning. Instead, you return to what truly matters: the warmth of connection, the beauty of nature, the stillness of breath, the kindness of heart. These are things that do not fade when trends change, things that cannot be stolen by time. Simplicity clears away the noise so you can finally hear the gentle voice of joy that was always there. Consider a room cluttered with unnecessary objects. At first you think each item is important, but slowly the clutter suffocates you. There is no space to move, no air to breathe. Happiness cannot thrive in such a crowded space. Now imagine removing the clutter, keeping only what you truly love, truly need. Suddenly the room feels lighter, brighter, freer. Your mind is the same. When filled with endless desires, endless comparisons, endless noise, it suffocates. But when you simplify, releasing what is not essential, your mind becomes spacious, peaceful, open to happiness. There is a Zen story of a professor who visited a wise monk. The professor wanted to learn about enlightenment, but he came full of opinions, full of knowledge, full of pride. The monk served him tea, pouring into the professor's cup until it overflowed. The professor exclaimed, "Stop! The cup is full. No more can go in." The monk replied, "Exactly. You are like this cup, so full of ideas and attachments that nothing new can enter. If you want to learn, first empty your cup." This lesson applies not only to knowledge, but to life. Our minds are often too full of desires, fears, possessions, and distractions for happiness to enter. Simplicity is the act of emptying the cup. Only when we release can we receive. Simplicity also brings freedom. Think of how much energy is wasted maintaining excess. The more possessions you own, the more you must clean, repair, protect, and worry about them. The more complicated your schedule, the more you live in stress rather than peace. The more roles and masks you wear, the more exhausted you become trying to keep them from falling. Simplicity frees you from these chains. When you own less, you are freer to move. When you schedule less, you are freer to breathe. When you drop false masks, you are freer to be yourself. This freedom is not about having nothing. It is about no longer being owned by the things you have. Happiness thrives in such freedom. When you simplify, even the smallest things bring joy. A cup of tea, a walk in fresh air, a meaningful conversation, a moment of silence. These small joys often go unnoticed in a life of excess, buried beneath the chase for something bigger. But in simplicity, they shine like treasures. Happiness is not about adding more to your life. It is about noticing what is already here. To practice simplicity, begin by asking yourself, what truly matters to me? What brings peace to my heart? Then gently release what does not serve that peace. This can be physical, letting go of possessions you do not need. It can be mental, releasing thoughts of comparison, resentment, and fear. It can be emotional, detaching from relationships or expectations that weigh you down. Each release is like taking a stone from a heavy backpack. The lighter the load, the easier the walk, the more enjoyable the journey. Simplicity is also about slowing down. Modern life glorifies speed, faster communication, faster work, faster achievements. But speed often blinds us to the present. You rush through meals, missing their taste. You rush through conversations, missing their depth. You rush through life, missing its beauty. Simplicity invites you to slow down, to eat mindfully, to listen deeply, to walk gently, to breathe fully. In slowness, happiness appears because you are finally present enough to see it. There is also a spiritual simplicity, returning to silence. The world is loud with opinions, arguments, judgments, but silence is where wisdom speaks. When you create moments of quiet in your day, sitting in meditation, walking in nature, simply breathing, you reconnect with your inner stillness. In that stillness, happiness is not a fleeting mood, but a steady presence. You realize you do not need constant stimulation to feel alive. Silence itself is alive, and in it you find peace. Imagine two people having breakfast. The first eats quickly while scrolling on his phone, barely tasting the food, already planning the day. The second eats slowly, noticing the warmth of the tea, the fragrance of the rice, the freshness of the morning air. The first believes he is saving time, but in truth, he is losing life. The second may take longer, but he is living fully. Which one is truly happy? Simplicity teaches you that happiness is not in doing more, but in being more present. The path of simplicity does not mean you must give up everything and live as a monk. It means you live with awareness, choosing carefully what you invite into your life. You may still own possessions, but you do not cling to them. You may still pursue goals, but you do not sacrifice your peace for them. You may still enjoy comfort, but you do not mistake it for meaning. Simplicity is not about having nothing, it is about having enough. And in enough, you discover abundance. The joy of simplicity is that it returns you to authenticity. You no longer live for appearances, trying to impress or compete. You live from the heart, guided by what feels true. In such authenticity, happiness is steady because it no longer depends on external approval. It arises from within, from the clarity of knowing who you are and what matters most. So tomorrow morning, before you step into the noise of the world, ask yourself, what can I release today to live more simply? Maybe it is a possession that clutters your space, a worry that clutters your mind, or a rush that clutters your time. Release it gently and notice how light you feel. With each act of simplicity, you create space for joy. Happiness is not hidden in excess. It is hidden beneath it. Strip away the unnecessary, and you uncover the peace that was always there. In simplicity, you discover that the life you already have is enough. In simplicity, you remember that joy is not complicated. It is as close as your breath, as near as your smile, as present as this moment. When you embrace simplicity, you stop running after more and start resting in what is. And in that rest, in that clarity, happiness appears, not as something to chase, but as something you finally allow yourself to feel. Happiness is contentment, discovering peace in the middle of enough. One of the most powerful teachings in Buddhism is the idea that contentment is the highest form of wealth. A person may own great riches but remain poor in spirit if their heart is never satisfied. Another may live with very little but carry peace in every breath if they have learned the art of contentment. Happiness, therefore, is not the endless chase for more, but the steady discovery of enough. When you can look at your life, however imperfect, and say sincerely, "This is enough for my joy," then you have found a freedom that no loss can take away and no gain can add to. The modern world trains us to believe the opposite. Everywhere there are messages that whisper, "You need more, you need to be more, you need to do more." Advertisements tell you that happiness is waiting in the next product. Culture tells you that worth is measured in status, in possessions, in achievements. Social media magnifies this, constantly showing the highlight reels of other people's lives. In such an environment, the mind is conditioned to feel lack even when surrounded by abundance. You may have food, shelter, family, health, but the moment you compare yourself to another, the seed of dissatisfaction is planted. Contentment is the practice of refusing this illusion. It is the choice to anchor your joy in what you already have instead of what you still desire. To understand contentment, imagine a thirsty traveler. One has a small cup of water and drinks it with gratitude, feeling nourished, feeling alive. The other stands beside a river but complains that the water is not cold enough, not clear enough, not abundant enough. Who is happier? Not the one with more, but the one who knows how to appreciate. Contentment is not about the size of your blessings, it is about your awareness of them. Contentment also protects you from the endless trap of craving. Craving is like a fire. No matter how much fuel you give it, it always asks for more. The new possession that felt exciting yesterday becomes ordinary today, and tomorrow it feels insufficient. The achievement that once seemed enough soon feels small compared to another's success. This cycle has no end. If you build your happiness on craving, you will always feel empty because the mind will always want something else. Contentment breaks this cycle by teaching you to rest. It teaches you to say, I already have enough for peace. I do not need more to be whole. This rest is not laziness, it is liberation. Buddhism often describes contentment as the middle path between indulgence and deprivation. It is not about denying yourself joy, nor is it about drowning in excess. It is about balance. Eat enough to nourish your body, but not so much that you are enslaved by taste. Work enough to support your life, but not so much that you lose your soul. Enjoy possessions, but do not let them possess you. Contentment is living in harmony with balance, where neither greed nor deprivation controls your heart. There is a story of a king who had everything: wealth, power, armies, luxury, yet he was restless. He asked a monk how to find peace. The monk replied, "Find a man who is content with nothing, and take his shirt. That shirt will bring you peace." The king searched everywhere until he found a poor man who radiated joy. He asked for his shirt, but the man replied, "I have no shirt." At that moment, the king realized the teaching. Happiness does not come from possessions, but from a content heart. This truth does not mean you must give up your life, your work, or your dreams. It means you stop making your happiness dependent on them. You can still pursue goals, but you do not postpone joy until those goals are achieved. You can still enjoy comfort, but you do not lose yourself if comfort disappears. Contentment is the anchor that keeps your happiness steady, no matter what life brings or takes away. Think of two people sitting under the same sky. One looks up and says, "It is not as bright as yesterday. The clouds block the view. The stars are not enough." The other looks up and says, "How beautiful that I get to see this sky tonight." The sky is the same, but their experience is different. Contentment changes your entire world, not by changing what you see, but by changing how you see it. Practicing contentment begins with gratitude. Each morning, before the world distracts you, sit quietly and count your blessings. Start with the simplest: your breath, your body, your ability to see, to hear, to feel. Then expand: the roof above you, the food that sustains you, the people who love you, the opportunities that await you. Gratitude shifts your focus from lack to abundance, training your mind to notice what is already enough. When you practice gratitude, contentment grows naturally, because the heart that sees blessings does not hunger for more. Another practice is mindfulness. Often, discontent arises not from reality, but from comparison or illusion. The mind says, "I need more because they have more." But mindfulness returns you to presence. It reminds you, in this moment I have what I need. In this moment I am alive. In this moment I am enough. With mindfulness, you see that discontent is not truth. It is a thought, a passing cloud. When you do not attach to it, it drifts away, and peace returns. Contentment also comes from simplicity. The less you clutter your life with unnecessary things, the easier it is to feel joy in the essentials. When your home is filled with objects you do not need, you feel restless. When your mind is filled with desires you do not need, you feel dissatisfied. But when you simplify, keeping only what serves your peace, you create space for happiness. Simplicity and contentment walk hand in hand, each supporting the other. A practical way to live contentment is to ask yourself daily, do I really need this? Will it add lasting peace to my life? If the answer is no, let it go. The more you practice this, the freer you feel. You stop chasing every desire, and you discover the joy of living lightly. Instead of feeling deprived, you feel liberated because you are no longer enslaved by endless wants. Contentment also transforms relationships. Many people demand too much from others, expecting perfection, constant attention, or eternal agreement. This creates conflict and disappointment. But when you practice contentment, you learn to appreciate people as they are, without demanding they fill every void in your heart. You see their flaws with compassion, their presence with gratitude. Relationships become lighter because love is no longer tied to expectation, but rooted in appreciation. But perhaps the deepest contentment comes from accepting yourself. Many live in constant self-comparison, never feeling enough. They measure themselves against others and always come up short. But when you practice self-contentment, you realize, I am enough as I am. I do not need to be perfect to be worthy of peace. This does not mean you stop growing. It means your growth is fueled by love, not by lack. When you are content with yourself, you carry an unshakable peace because your happiness is no longer at the mercy of the world's judgment. So tomorrow morning, as you open your eyes, whisper, what I have is enough. Who I am is enough. This moment is enough. Let that truth sink into your heart. Carry it through your day and notice how it transforms your perspective. The food tastes richer, the air feels lighter, the world looks brighter. Not because it changed, but because your heart did. Happiness is not hidden in distant dreams or future possessions. It is hidden in contentment, in the quiet ability to rest in what already is. When you stop chasing, when you stop comparing, when you stop demanding more, you discover the gentle peace of enough. And in that peace you realize that contentment is not the end of happiness, it is happiness itself. Happiness is forgiveness, releasing the chains of the past to free the heart. Among the heaviest burdens human beings carry is the weight of resentment. Anger toward those who hurt us, bitterness over betrayals, guilt for our own mistakes, regret for what could have been. These memories follow us like shadows. We replay old wounds in the mind, sometimes years or even decades after the event, believing that by holding on, we are protecting ourselves. But in truth, holding on binds us to the past and steals the peace of the present. Forgiveness, though often misunderstood, is the key that unlocks this prison. Happiness is not only about cultivating gratitude, simplicity, or contentment. It is also about learning to forgive. To forgive is not to excuse, but to release. It is to free your own heart so that you may step fully into life without dragging yesterday's chains behind you. When you are hurt, the mind naturally resists letting go. It says, if I forgive, they win. If I forgive, it means what they did is acceptable. But forgiveness is not about the other person. It is about you. Refusing to forgive does not punish them. It poisons you. Anger is like drinking poison and hoping the other person will suffer. Resentment is like clutching a burning coal with the intent to throw it but all the while, you are the one being burned. Happiness cannot flourish in a heart filled with fire. Forgiveness is the act of putting down the coal, not for their sake, but for your own. Buddhism teaches that clinging to anger is one of the greatest obstacles to peace. The Buddha once said, "Holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned." When you forgive, you are not saying that the wrong was right. You are saying that you will no longer let that wrong control your present. You are taking back your freedom. Forgiveness has two dimensions, forgiving others and forgiving yourself. Both are equally essential and both require courage. Forgiving others. When someone hurts you, your instinct may be to build a wall, to protect yourself with anger. But anger is not protection, it is a prison. By holding resentment, you allow the past to dictate your present. Each time you recall the memory, your body reacts with the same stress, the same pain, as if the wound were new. The event may have happened years ago, but emotionally, it is still happening now. Forgiveness is the way to end this cycle. To forgive others, you must first see clearly. Understand that those who cause harm are often themselves caught in cycles of ignorance, fear, or suffering. A person who acts with cruelty does so because they are not at peace within. This does not excuse their behavior, but it helps you release the personal sting. You realize their actions were more a reflection of their pain than of your worth. When you see this, compassion becomes possible, and compassion is the seed of forgiveness. There is a story of two monks walking together. At a river they met a woman who could not cross. One monk carried her on his back across the river. Hours later, the other monk scolded him. "We are not supposed to touch women. Why did you do that?" The first monk replied, "I set her down hours ago, but you are still carrying her." This story reveals how often we carry burdens long after they are gone. Forgiveness is the act of setting them down. Forgiving yourself. Often, the hardest forgiveness is directed inward. Many people live trapped by their own mistakes, carrying guilt and regret like chains around their neck. They replay their failures, punishing themselves again and again. But self-condemnation does not change the past. It only blocks the possibility of growth. To forgive yourself is not to deny responsibility. It is to acknowledge your mistake, to learn from it, and then to release it. It is to say, "Yes, I was imperfect. Yes, I hurt myself or others. But I am not my mistake. I am capable of growth." Self-forgiveness transforms guilt into wisdom. It turns regret into compassion. Without it, happiness remains out of reach, because you are always at war with yourself. With it, happiness blossoms, because you finally allow yourself to be human. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack filled with stones. Each stone represents a grudge, a regret, a resentment. You carry it everywhere, and it weighs you down. Life feels heavy, exhausting. Forgiveness is like removing the stones, one by one. With each stone you release, you feel lighter. Eventually, you discover you can walk freely, unburdened. The people you forgive may never change. The past may never change, but your relationship to it changes. That is the freedom of forgiveness, the practice of forgiveness. Forgiveness is not always instant. Sometimes the wound is deep, and healing takes time. Forgiveness is a practice, a gradual opening of the heart. Begin with intention. Each morning say, "Today I choose peace over resentment." This sets your mind in the right direction. Meditation can also be powerful. In loving-kindness meditation, you repeat phrases of goodwill. May I be happy. May I be peaceful. May I be free from suffering. Then extend it to others, even those who hurt you. May they be happy. May they be peaceful. May they be free from suffering. At first, this may feel impossible, but with practice, the sharpness of resentment softens. Over time, you find space in your heart for forgiveness. Writing is another tool. Write a letter to the person you need to forgive, not to send, but to release. Pour out your anger, your hurt, your pain. Then, write words of release. I choose not to carry this anymore. I release you. I release myself. Burn or tear the letter as a symbol of letting go. These rituals remind the mind and body that it is safe to set down the burden. Forgiveness is not weakness. It does not mean you accept mistreatment or invite harm again. You can forgive and still set boundaries. You can forgive and still walk away from toxic relationships. Forgiveness is an inner act. It frees your heart, regardless of what happens externally. It is strength because it requires courage to face your pain and choose peace anyway. The joy of forgiveness. When forgiveness ripens, it brings a lightness you may not have felt in years. The world looks brighter, your heart feels open, your body relaxes. You realize that holding on to resentment was like carrying a shadow that blocked the sun. With forgiveness, the shadow lifts and light pours in. You also discover that forgiveness deepens compassion. When you forgive others, you see them more clearly, not as enemies, but as fellow humans struggling in their own pain. When you forgive yourself, you treat yourself with gentleness, no longer demanding perfection, no longer attacking yourself for being human. Compassion grows in both directions, and with compassion comes happiness. There is a profound freedom in knowing you are no longer chained to the past. Life becomes lighter, more fluid, more joyful. You are able to live in the present because you are no longer dragging old wounds into every new moment. Happiness is not a gift someone else gives you. It is the natural state that arises when you remove the obstacles. Forgiveness is the removal of one of the greatest obstacles of all. So tomorrow morning, as you rise, whisper to yourself, I release what has passed. I forgive others. I forgive myself. I choose peace today. Carry this intention with you. Each time the past returns to haunt you, breathe deeply and repeat, I release you. I choose peace. Slowly, gently, steadily, the chains weaken, and in their absence, happiness flows. Remember, forgiveness is not about rewriting the past. It is about reclaiming the present. It is not about denying pain, but about transforming it. It is not about letting others off the hook, but about setting yourself free. When you forgive, you do not lose, you gain. You gain freedom, peace, compassion, and joy. And in that gain, you discover that forgiveness is not only an act of kindness, it is an act of happiness itself. Happiness is compassion, expanding the heart beyond yourself. If gratitude is the seed of happiness, compassion is the tree that grows from it. To live only for yourself, to seek only your own comfort and joy, is to live in a small circle. That circle quickly becomes a prison. But when your heart expands to include the joys and sorrows of others, you break free of that prison and discover a happiness that is vast, resilient, and enduring. Buddhism teaches that compassion, karuna, is not simply pity or sympathy. It is the courageous choice to open your heart to the suffering of others and respond with kindness. Happiness deepens not when you close yourself off from others, but when you allow their humanity to touch yours. Many people misunderstand happiness as something individual. If I secure enough for myself, if I protect my own peace, if I get what I desire, then I will be happy. Yet, this approach often leaves them feeling empty. Why? Because human beings are not separate islands. We are threads in a vast web of interconnection. When others suffer, it echoes within us. When others find joy, it lifts us too. To deny this interconnection is to live in isolation, and isolation breeds loneliness. Compassion reconnects us. It reminds us that true happiness is not solitary, it is shared. Think of a candle lighting another candle. The first flame does not diminish by sharing its fire. It multiplies the light. Compassion works the same way. When you ease someone's pain, when you comfort a hurting heart, when you act with kindness, your own flame does not shrink. It grows brighter. Compassion transforms your happiness from a small spark into a radiant light that illuminates not only your own life, but the lives of many. But compassion is not just about grand gestures. It lives in the smallest moments. A patient ear when someone needs to speak, a smile to a stranger who feels invisible, a gentle word instead of a harsh one. These small acts ripple outward in ways we may never see. You may never know how much one act of kindness meant to someone, how it shifted their day, or even saved their life. Compassion plants seeds of joy that grow silently, sometimes beyond your sight. And yet, in giving, you feel joy too, because compassion nourishes the giver as much as the receiver. Still, compassion requires courage. To open your heart to the suffering of others is not always easy. The instinct is to turn away, to close your eyes, to say, "It's not my problem." But closing your heart does not protect you. It only makes you smaller. When you avoid compassion, you build walls, and those walls isolate you from connection, from love, from joy. Compassion, on the other hand, may sometimes bring tears, but it also brings expansion. It stretches your heart until it becomes vast enough to hold not only your own struggles, but the struggles of the world. And within that vastness, happiness arises, not a fragile, selfish happiness, but a strong, expansive peace. There is a story from the Buddha's life. One day, a man came to him filled with anger. He insulted the Buddha, calling him names, trying to provoke a reaction. But the Buddha remained calm, his face serene. Finally, the man asked, "Why do you not respond to my anger?" The Buddha replied, "If someone offers you a gift and you refuse it, to whom does it belong?" The man answered, "To the one who offered it." The Buddha said, "Exactly. Your anger is your gift, but I do not accept it." This story is not only about patience, it is about compassion. The Buddha saw that the man's anger was born from ignorance, from his own suffering. Instead of responding with anger, he responded with compassion, refusing to let the poison spread. Compassion protects happiness by breaking the chain of suffering. Compassion must also be directed inward. Many people are kind to others but harsh toward themselves. They forgive others, yet punish themselves endlessly. But compassion cannot flow freely outward if it does not also flow inward. Self-compassion means recognizing your own suffering with kindness rather than judgment. It means treating yourself as you would a dear friend. When you fail, instead of saying, "I am worthless," you say, "I am human and I am learning." When you feel pain, instead of saying, "I must hide this," you say, "This is difficult and I deserve care." Self-compassion is not weakness, it is the foundation of strength. Without it, your compassion for others is often brittle because you are secretly running on empty. With it, your compassion is sustainable because it flows from fullness. The practice of compassion is cultivated through mindfulness. When you are present, you notice the subtle signals of suffering in others and in yourself. You see the tired eyes of a colleague, the silence of a friend who usually smiles, the way your own body tenses under stress. Mindfulness opens your eyes, and compassion opens your heart. Together, they guide you to respond not with indifference, but with care. One powerful practice is metta bhavana, the meditation of loving kindness. You begin by sending goodwill to yourself. May I be happy. May I be peaceful. May I be free from suffering. Then you extend it outward, to a loved one, to a neutral person, to someone with whom you struggle, and finally to all beings. Over time, this practice rewires the heart. You begin to see even those who once angered you as human beings worthy of peace. Compassion grows, and with it, happiness. Another way to practice compassion is through service. Offer your time, your skills, your presence to those in need. It does not have to be dramatic. Listening deeply to someone is an act of service. Helping a neighbor is service. Speaking kindly in a moment of tension is service. Service reminds you that your life is not separate from others, and in serving you discover a joy deeper than self-centered pleasure. You discover the happiness of connection, the happiness of meaning. But compassion must also be wise. It does not mean allowing yourself to be harmed or enabling harmful behavior. True compassion is balanced. It offers kindness while also setting boundaries. It says, "I care for you, but I will not allow your suffering to become abuse." It says, "I will help you, but I will not lose myself in the process." This balance keeps compassion strong and sustainable, ensuring that your happiness remains steady even as you care for others. The joy of compassion is that it transforms suffering. When you see someone in pain and you respond with kindness, you soften their suffering. And in doing so, your own suffering softens too. Compassion reminds you that pain is part of the human experience, but it is not something you must carry alone. In compassion, burdens are shared, and shared burdens become lighter. Imagine two people carrying a heavy load. Alone, each struggles. Together, they find the weight manageable. Compassion is this act of carrying together. When you offer it, you reduce the suffering of the world, even if only slightly. And in reducing the suffering of others, you reduce your own, because you are part of the same human family. Compassion also heals division. Much of the world's conflict arises from the illusion of separation, us versus them, me versus you. Compassion dissolves this illusion. It says, "Your suffering is my suffering. Your joy is my joy." When compassion is present, walls crumble and bridges form. Happiness expands, not just for you, but for all. So tomorrow morning, begin with compassion. As you rise, whisper, "May I be peaceful. May I be happy. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be happy." Carry this prayer into your day. When you meet someone, even a stranger, silently wish them peace. When you face conflict, breathe compassion into your response. When you feel pain within yourself, place a hand on your heart and say, "I see your suffering and I offer you kindness." With each act of compassion, you water the seeds of happiness. Happiness is not only about finding peace in solitude or joy in simplicity. It is also about expanding your heart until it can hold the world. Compassion is the path to this expansion. It transforms your life from a small story of me into a vast story of we. And in that vastness, happiness is not fragile. It is unshakable. Because no matter what changes, no matter what you lose, compassion remains within you, always available, always renewing joy. Remember, happiness grows when your heart grows, and the way the heart grows is through compassion. Happiness is patience, trusting the timing of life. There is a quiet truth about happiness that many people overlook. It is not always found in doing more, in rushing faster, or in controlling outcomes. Much of our unhappiness comes not from what happens, but from the way we struggle against the timing of life. We want things now. We want healing now. We want success now. We want answers now. But life unfolds like a river. It flows at its own pace, not ours. When we demand that the river move faster, we suffer. When we learn to float with its current, we find peace. Happiness, therefore, is not only about gratitude, compassion, or forgiveness. It is also about patience, the art of waiting with trust, the courage to surrender control, and the wisdom to know that every season has its time. In Buddhism, patience, kshanti, is considered one of the highest perfections of the heart. It is not simply the ability to endure, but the ability to endure without bitterness. True patience is calm acceptance in the face of delay, difficulty, or suffering. It is the understanding that life cannot be rushed, that growth cannot be forced, that peace comes not by fighting against time, but by flowing with it. When you cultivate patience, you create space for happiness to arise naturally. Think of a seed. You plant it in the soil, water it, and wait. No matter how much you want the flower to bloom, you cannot pull it open. If you try to force it, you destroy it. The seed has its own rhythm, its own silent intelligence. It will sprout when the conditions are right, not when you demand it. Life is the same. Your dreams, your healing, your relationships, all of them unfold like seeds. They need time, nourishment, and the right conditions. Impatience is like digging up the seed to see if it is growing. Patience is trusting that even when you cannot see progress, life is still working quietly beneath the surface. Impatience is often born from fear. We fear we will miss our chance. We fear we are falling behind. We fear life will not give us what we desire. But fear blinds us to the truth, that timing is not in our control. The flower blooms when it blooms. The river flows when it flows. The sun rises when it rises. Your role is not to control these rhythms, but to align yourself with them. When you learn to trust timing, your fear softens and happiness grows. There is a story of a monk and his student walking in the forest. The student, eager to achieve enlightenment, asked, "Master, how long will it take me to be enlightened if I practice diligently?" The master replied, 10 years. The student frowned. "What if I practice twice as hard?" The master said, 20 years. The student, confused, asked, "Why longer if I try harder?" The master smiled and said, "Because with too much effort you create tension. Enlightenment is not caught by chasing, it arrives when the heart is ready." This story shows the essence of patience. Sometimes, the harder we push, the further happiness drifts. Patience is the wisdom of allowing things to ripen in their time. Patience also teaches resilience in suffering. When pain comes, whether physical, emotional, or spiritual, the impatient mind cries, "Make it stop now." But the patient mind whispers, "This too shall pass." All things are impermanent. No storm lasts forever. No winter blocks spring. No wound stays open without end. When you practice patience, you trust in this truth. You learn to breathe through difficulty, to endure with dignity, to wait with faith that healing will come. In this trust, you find peace even in the midst of hardship. Imagine two people standing in the rain. The first curses the sky, demanding the rain stop, feeling only anger and discomfort. The second accepts the rain, knowing it will not last forever, perhaps even finding beauty in its sound, its freshness, its cleansing. Which one is happier? The rain is the same, but the mind is different. Patience transforms suffering into peace by shifting your relationship with time. Practicing patience requires mindfulness. Impatience arises when the mind leaps into the future, demanding results that are not here yet. Mindfulness returns you to the present. It says, "In this moment, I am breathing. In this moment, I have enough." When you live in the present, the weight of waiting dissolves. You realize that life is happening now, not later, and happiness is available now, not after all your desires are fulfilled. Another practice is compassionate breathing. When you feel impatience rising, waiting in traffic, standing in line, longing for change, pause. Breathe deeply, in and out. Say silently, "I breathe in patience. I breathe out peace." Each breath reminds you that you do not need to rush. Each breath teaches you that you can be at peace even while waiting. Slowly, impatience transforms into presence. Patience is also a form of humility. It reminds you that you are not the master of time. The universe does not move according to your schedule. Accepting this truth softens pride and strengthens surrender. You begin to see that life is not a race, but a journey of unfolding. Each delay, each waiting, each pause is part of the path. Patience allows you to walk this path with grace instead of resistance. Relationships, too, thrive on patience. Without it, small irritations grow into anger, misunderstandings turn into conflict, differences become walls. With patience, you learn to listen more deeply, to give others the time they need to express themselves, to allow growth instead of demanding perfection. A child does not learn instantly. A partner does not change overnight. A friend does not always meet your expectations immediately. Patience creates space for love to grow. Impatience suffocates it. If happiness in relationships is your desire, patience is the soil in which it grows. Patience with yourself is equally important. Many people demand that they heal quickly, learn quickly, achieve quickly. When they stumble, they criticize themselves harshly, but growth takes time, just as seasons do. You would not demand that winter turn into spring overnight. Why demand that of yourself? Self-patience is the practice of saying, I am learning, I am growing. It will take time, and that is okay. This kindness toward yourself creates happiness because it removes the pressure of unrealistic expectations. There is a Zen saying, sitting quietly, doing nothing, spring comes, and the grass grows by itself. This is patience. The grass grows in its time. Your life, too, unfolds in its time. You cannot rush it, but you can trust it, and in that trust you discover peace. So tomorrow morning as you rise, whisper to yourself, I choose patience. I trust the timing of life. I do not need everything now. I have enough in this moment. Carry this mantra into your day. When impatience arises, in traffic, at work, in your heart, repeat it gently. Notice how the tension softens, how peace returns, how happiness blossoms quietly in the space of patience. Happiness is not always in reaching the destination. It is often in walking the journey without rushing. When you cultivate patience, you discover that waiting is not wasted time. It is life itself. And in that life, happiness is always here, waiting patiently for you to notice. Happiness is letting go, the freedom of non-attachment. If you look closely at the root of most suffering, you will find one common thread: attachment. We cling to people, possessions, achievements, and even our own identities as if they are permanent, as if they define us. We say, this is mine, this must stay, this cannot change. But everything in life is impermanent. Relationships shift, wealth comes and goes, health rises and falls, even the body itself eventually fades. To cling to what must change is to invite inevitable pain. Buddhism teaches that happiness is not found in clinging, but in letting go. Letting go does not mean indifference or coldness. It means loving fully without demanding permanence. It means enjoying blessings without fearing their loss. It means resting in freedom rather than drowning in grasping. Happiness grows naturally in the open hands of non-attachment. Attachment is like holding a rope too tightly. At first, you think your grip protects you, but the tighter you hold, the deeper the rope cuts into your skin. The pain you feel is not from the rope itself, but from your grip on it. In the same way, possessions, relationships, and experiences are not the problem. The suffering comes from the way we clutch at them, refusing to let life flow as it will. Letting go loosens the grip. The rope no longer cuts, the pain eases. Consider love. Many confuse attachment with love, but they are not the same. Attachment says, I need you to make me happy. You must act as I wish. If you leave, my world collapses. This is not love, it is possession. True love, rooted in non-attachment, says, I care for you deeply. I wish for your happiness, whether or not it always aligns with mine. I love you as you are, not as I want you to be. Non-attached love is freer, gentler, and ultimately more enduring. It allows both people to grow without chains. It creates space for joy because it is not driven by fear of loss. Attachment also shows up in our relationship with possessions. We believe, if I own enough, I will be secure. If I lose this, I will be broken. Yet possessions inevitably change. They wear down, break, or pass to others. How fragile is happiness if it depends on things that cannot last? Non-attachment does not mean renouncing all possessions. It means using them with gratitude, but not depending on them for peace. It means saying, "This is here now, and I am thankful. If it leaves tomorrow, I remain whole." We also cling to identities. We say, "I am my job, I am my success, I am my role in this family, I am my body." But identities shift, jobs end, roles evolve, bodies age. When we cling, we panic as these changes unfold. Non-attachment teaches us that we are not limited to these shifting labels. At our essence, we are more spacious than any identity. When you let go of rigid identification, you find freedom. You can flow with life instead of fearing change. There is a parable of a man crossing a river. He builds a raft to reach the other shore. Once across, he thinks, "This raft saved my life. I must carry it always." So he hauls the heavy raft onto land, struggling under its weight. The Buddha explained, "The raft was useful for crossing, but once its purpose was served, carrying it further only caused suffering." In the same way, many of our attachments were once useful, habits, beliefs, relationships. But when their time passes, clinging to them becomes a burden. Letting go is not betrayal, it is wisdom. Letting go also heals the past. Many people remain trapped not by what happened, but by their refusal to release it. They replay old pains, clinging to what could have been different. But the past cannot change. Non-attachment says, "This happened. It shaped me. Now I release it." In releasing, you create space for the present. You stop carrying yesterday's stones and discover how light today can feel. The practice of letting go begins with awareness. Notice what you cling to: objects, people, identities, expectations. Ask yourself, if this were gone tomorrow, would I still be whole? At first, the answer may be no, but with mindfulness, you see that wholeness is not found outside, it is found in presence. Slowly you realize that happiness does not depend on holding tightly, but on living openly. Meditation can train this. When thoughts arise, do not cling to them. Watch them come and go, like clouds drifting through the sky. This practice shows you that clinging is not necessary. Thoughts flow on their own if you allow them. In the same way, life flows if you let it. Breathing is another teacher of non-attachment. You cannot hold your breath, no matter how much you want to. To cling to one inhale suffocates you. Only by letting go of each breath do you make space for the next. Life is the same. To cling is to suffocate. To release is to live. Non-attachment also transforms how you face death, your own and that of loved ones. Fear of death is often the deepest form of attachment, clinging to life as if it were permanent. But Buddhism teaches that impermanence is natural. Birth and death are part of the same flow. When you release the demand for permanence, you stop fearing the end. You begin to live more fully now, appreciating each moment because you no longer try to make it last forever. Some fear that non-attachment means indifference, but the opposite is true. When you let go, you can love more deeply because your love is not chained by fear. You can enjoy possessions more fully because you are not anxious about losing them. You can live more vibrantly because you are not paralyzed by change. Non-attachment enriches joy. It does not erase it. Imagine holding a bird. If you grip it tightly, you crush it. If you leave your hand open, it may rest there peacefully. This is the difference between attachment and non-attachment. One suffocates, the other liberates. And liberation is where happiness grows. To practice letting go daily, reflect each evening. What did I cling to today? What can I release now? It may be a worry, a frustration, an expectation. Breathe it out. With each release, you create space for peace. Over time, letting go becomes natural. Happiness is not about possessing, securing, or clinging. It is about flowing, allowing, and releasing. When you open your hands, you discover that life still gives abundantly. When you open your heart, you discover that love still flows. When you release your grip on the rope, you discover how free your hands feel. So tomorrow morning, as you awaken, whisper to yourself, "I let go. I release what is not mine to control. I open my heart to this moment, as it is carry this with you." Notice how light you feel, how joy arises not from grasping but from freedom. Letting go is not losing. Letting go is gaining space, peace, and freedom. It is realizing that you are more than what you cling to. It is trusting that life gives and takes in its rhythm, and in that rhythm you remain whole. Happiness, in the deepest sense, is not holding on, but letting go. Happiness is living in the present, the power of now. If you look at where most human suffering arises, you will often find the mind caught in two places, the past and the future. The past holds regret, resentment, guilt, nostalgia. The future holds worry, fear, anxiety, and expectation. Rarely does the mind rest in the present moment, and yet it is only in the present that life actually happens. Happiness is not hidden in yesterday, nor promised in tomorrow. It is here, now, in this breath, in this moment. To live in the present is to return home to the only place where joy is possible. The Buddha once said, "Do not dwell in the past, do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment." These words are simple, yet they hold profound truth. The past is gone. No matter how much you think about it, you cannot change it. The future has not arrived. It is an illusion, a projection of the mind. The only reality you truly touch is the present. When you miss the present, you miss life itself. To train your mind to live here and now is to awaken to happiness. Think of a person walking through a beautiful garden. Flowers bloom, birds sing, sunlight sparkles through the leaves. But the person is so lost in thought, regretting yesterday's mistake, worrying about tomorrow's meeting, that they never notice the beauty around them. They walk through paradise without seeing it. This is how most people live. Life offers countless small joys, fresh air, warm tea, kind words, a moment of stillness. But the distracted mind does not see them. Living in the present is the practice of opening your eyes to what is already here. Living in the present does not mean ignoring the past or abandoning the future. It means not being enslaved by them. The past can teach, the future can inspire, but neither should steal the peace of now. You can remember without clinging, plan without fearing, dream without escaping. The present is the ground on which both memory and vision must stand. Why is the present so powerful? Because it is alive. The past is memory. The future is imagination, but the present is reality. It holds the taste of your food, the sound of your breath, the warmth of your skin. When you anchor in the present, even ordinary moments become extraordinary. Washing dishes becomes meditation as you feel the warm water on your hands. Walking becomes a joy as you notice the rhythm of your steps. Listening becomes love as you truly hear another's words. Happiness is not something far away. It is woven into these simple present moments. Yet the mind resists. It says, "I will be happy when I get the promotion, when I buy the house, when I find the partner, when I achieve my goal." This thinking postpones happiness to a future that never arrives, because once one goal is met, another appears. Life becomes an endless waiting room, with joy always just out of reach. Living in the present breaks this cycle. It says, happiness is not later, it is now. I do not need to wait for life to be perfect. I can touch peace in this very breath. Consider a child playing. They are not worried about yesterday's failures or tomorrow's responsibilities. They are fully absorbed in building a sandcastle, painting a picture, or chasing a butterfly. Their joy arises from being present. Adults often lose this ability, but it can be relearned. When you practice mindfulness, you return to the childlike wonder of presence. You rediscover how alive and joyful each moment can be when you stop rushing past it. There is a Zen saying, "When walking, walk. When eating, eat." This teaching sounds obvious, but most people rarely do it. When walking, the mind is planning. When eating, the mind is scrolling through a phone. When with loved ones, the mind is elsewhere. Living in the present means doing one thing fully. When you walk, you feel each step. When you eat, you taste each bite. When you sit, you breathe. This simplicity awakens happiness because your whole being is engaged with life as it is. The practice of present living begins with the breath. The breath is always here, always now. Each inhale and exhale anchors you in the present. When your mind drifts into the past or future, gently return to the breath. Say to yourself, breathing in, I know I am breathing in. Breathing out, I know I am breathing out. Slowly, the restless mind calms. You discover that peace was never absent. You were simply distracted from it. Another practice is mindful observation. Choose a simple activity, drinking tea, washing your hands, listening to the wind. Do it slowly, fully aware of each sensation. Notice the warmth of the tea, the feeling of the water, the sound of the leaves. When your mind tries to wander, gently return to the experience. This practice trains you to see the richness of the present. Living in the present also means releasing control. Much of our stress comes from trying to manage the future, but no amount of worry can guarantee what tomorrow will bring. Planning has its place, but when planning becomes obsession, peace disappears. The art is to prepare wisely, but then return to the present. As the saying goes, plan for tomorrow, but live today. Relationships transform when you live in the present. Imagine speaking with someone while your mind is elsewhere. You miss their meaning, their emotion, their presence. Now imagine listening fully, eyes clear, heart open, mind quiet. In that space, connection deepens. People feel truly seen and love blossoms. Presence is the greatest gift you can offer others because it tells them you matter now, you are enough now. Self-love also grows in the present. Many people punish themselves with past mistakes or paralyze themselves with future fears. But in the present, you can begin again. The past does not define you. The future does not limit you. This moment is fresh. Every breath is a new chance. When you live in the present, you stop carrying old guilt and stop fearing unknown outcomes. You discover freedom. There is a story of a monk who carried a heavy pail of water up a hill each day. One morning he stumbled, spilling the water. He sighed, but then he laughed. He realized the water was gone, the past was gone, and his frustration was only prolonging what had already ended. He decided from then on, when the water spilled, he would smile and let it go. This is present living, accepting what is without dragging it forward. Some may ask, if I live in the present, will I lose ambition? Will I stop growing? The answer is no. Living in the present does not mean abandoning goals. It means walking toward them with peace. You can work toward a dream while still enjoying the journey. You can plant seeds for tomorrow while still appreciating today's soil. Happiness is not in choosing between the present and the future. It is in grounding yourself in the present while walking toward the future with calm. Living in the present also softens fear of death. Death is often feared because the mind imagines the future loss of life. But when you live fully in the present, you realize life is not in the future, it is here. If you live this moment deeply, you are not afraid of what is to come. Each moment lived fully is a victory over fear. So tomorrow morning, as you awaken, pause, feel your breath, notice the light entering your room, whisper to yourself, "This is a new moment. This is life. I am here." Carry this awareness into your day. When the mind drifts to regret or worry, gently guide it back. Now is enough. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes. Happiness is not hidden in yesterday's shadows or tomorrow's illusions. It is here, in the present, waiting to be noticed. The secret is not to chase it, but to wake up to it. Each moment you live fully is a moment of joy. And when you string together enough of these moments, you realize that happiness was never far. It was always here in the power of now. 20. Happiness is balance, walking the middle path. In life, many people believe happiness comes from extremes. Some chase after endless pleasure, thinking the more they indulge, the more they will feel alive. Others retreat into denial, believing happiness can be found only through rejecting the world completely. But both paths lead to suffering. Too much indulgence leaves the body tired and the heart restless. Too much denial leaves the spirit empty and disconnected. Buddhism teaches another way, the middle path. This is the path of balance, of harmony, of wisdom that avoids both extremes. Happiness, in its deepest sense, is not found in too much or too little, but in balance. The middle path was discovered by the Buddha himself. Before his awakening, he lived in two extremes. As a prince, he was surrounded by luxury, fine clothes, feasts, music, and comfort. Yet despite having everything, he felt empty, sensing that pleasure alone could not bring lasting peace. Later, as a seeker, he turned to asceticism, denying himself food, sleep, and comfort, nearly starving in the attempt to conquer desire. But he realized that denying the body only weakens the mind. Neither indulgence nor denial led to liberation, so he chose a new way, not too much, not too little. The middle path. From that path, enlightenment blossomed. This lesson is not just for monks, it is for every human life. Modern people often swing between extremes. They work too much, then collapse in exhaustion. They eat too much, then punish themselves with harsh restriction. They chase pleasure desperately, then drown in guilt. These swings exhaust the spirit. Happiness is lost in the chaos. Balance restores peace. Think of a lute string. If the string is too tight, it snaps. If it is too loose, it makes no sound. Only when it is tuned to the right balance does it create beautiful music. The human heart is the same. Too much control makes you rigid. Too little discipline makes you careless. But with balance, your life sings. Balance is not a fixed point. It is a living practice. Imagine walking a tightrope. Every step requires small adjustments, leaning a little left, then a little right, never staying perfectly still but always returning to center. Life is like this. Each day you adjust between work and rest, effort and ease, solitude and connection. Balance is not perfection, it is the art of steady return. Balance begins with the body. Many people neglect their physical health in pursuit of success, staying up late, eating poorly, ignoring rest. Others obsess over health, controlling every bite, turning the body into an enemy. Neither extreme brings peace. The balanced path cares for the body with kindness. You eat nourishing food, but allow yourself occasional treats. You exercise to strengthen, not to punish. You rest without guilt, knowing the body is your companion on the path. In this balance, the body becomes a source of energy and joy. Balance extends to the mind. Too much stimulation, constant screens, noise, information, leaves the mind restless and anxious. Too much withdrawal, avoiding the world, hiding from challenges, leaves the mind dull and fearful. The balanced mind engages with the world, but also knows when to step back into silence. It thinks, but it also rests. It learns, but it also lets go. In this rhythm, the mind is calm yet alive. Balance also applies to emotions. Some people suppress feelings, believing emotions are weaknesses. Others are consumed by them, riding every wave of anger, sadness, or joy. Balance is to acknowledge emotions without drowning in them. It is to say, I feel anger, but I am not anger. I feel sadness, but I am not sadness. I feel joy, and I can savor it without clinging. Emotions flow like weather, and balance is the umbrella that keeps you steady through storms. There is a story of a farmer whose horse ran away. The neighbors said, "How unlucky." The farmer replied, "Maybe." Days later, the horse returned with 3 wild horses. The neighbors said, "How lucky." The farmer replied, "Maybe." Then his son tried to ride one and broke his leg. The neighbors said, "How unlucky." The farmer replied, "Maybe." Soon after, soldiers came to recruit young men for war, but his son was spared because of his broken leg. The neighbors said, "How lucky." The farmer replied, "Maybe." This story teaches balance of perspective. Life will swing between fortune and misfortune, but clinging to either extreme blinds us. Balance is staying steady in both gain and loss, joy and sorrow. Balance is also needed in relationships. Too much attachment suffocates love. Too much distance starves it. The balanced relationship gives space and closeness, freedom and connection. It listens, but also speaks. It gives, but also receives. Such relationships blossom because they are rooted in harmony, not control. Even in spiritual practice, balance is essential. Some become rigid, obsessing over rituals, measuring themselves against ideals, judging others harshly. Others become careless, neglecting practice entirely. Balance is the path of steady effort, dedicated but gentle, disciplined but compassionate. It says, "I walk with sincerity, but I do not punish myself. I grow with effort, but I rest when needed." This balanced practice leads to steady peace rather than burnout or emptiness. How do we cultivate balance daily? Begin with mindfulness. Pay attention to your extremes. Notice when you push too hard, when you withdraw too much, when you cling or reject. Each awareness is a chance to adjust, like the tightrope walker returning to center. Ask yourself often, am I in balance right now? Breathing can also restore balance. When stressed, pause and take slow, deep breaths. Balance the inhale and exhale, equal and steady. The breath teaches your body and mind to return to harmony. In breath, you rediscover the middle path. Another practice is simplicity. Many imbalances arise from excess. Too many tasks, too many desires, too many distractions. Simplify your life. Keep what nourishes you, release what drains you. In simplicity, balance comes naturally. Balance also means pacing yourself. Many chase goals with intensity, burning out before reaching them. The middle path teaches steady effort. Like walking, not sprinting. Small, consistent steps carry you further than bursts of exhaustion. Trust that life is a journey, not a race. Balance sustains happiness along the way. So tomorrow morning, pause and whisper, "Today I walk the middle path. Not too much, not too little. I choose balance." Carry this mantra into your choices. When you work, give focus, but also rest. When you eat, enjoy, but not excessively. When you love, give deeply, but do not cling. Each balanced act creates peace. Happiness is not at the extremes, it is at the center. When you walk the middle path, you discover harmony with yourself, with others, and with life itself. You are not pulled violently by desire or pushed down by denial. You are steady, like the calm flame of a candle in still air. From that steadiness, happiness glows, not fragile, not fleeting, but strong and serene. The lute string sings only when in balance. So does life. And when your life is tuned to balance, you realize the music of happiness was always waiting to be played. Happiness has always been the great search of humanity. Across cultures, across centuries, people have asked, how do I live a joyful life? How do I find peace in a world that changes, that suffers, that never seems to be enough? We chase answers in wealth, in power, in relationships, in achievements. But again and again, we discover that none of these can fully satisfy. They bring glimpses, but not permanence. They bring moments, but not foundation. Through these teachings, drawn from the wisdom of the Buddha and echoed by the quiet voice of the human heart, you have walked through many lessons: gratitude, compassion, mindfulness, forgiveness, patience, balance, simplicity, equanimity, and more. Each lesson has not been a commandment, not a rule, but a gentle pointing. Happiness is here. Look closely. The truth in its simplicity is this: happiness is not something you acquire, it is something you uncover. Like the sun hidden by clouds, joy is already shining within you. The clouds are fear, craving, clinging, resistance. The practice is not to build the sun, but to clear the sky. Each lesson you have read has been one act of clearing. Gratitude clears the cloud of lack. Forgiveness clears the cloud of resentment. Mindfulness clears the cloud of distraction. Equanimity clears the cloud of fear. Slowly, the sky brightens, and the light of happiness is revealed. The nature of happiness. True happiness is quiet. It is not the loud excitement of pleasure which rises quickly and fades. It is not the intoxication of success which depends on others' praise. It is not the fleeting comfort of possessions which can be taken away. True happiness is steady, like a flame sheltered from the wind. It glows in simple things: a breath, a smile, a step, a kind word, a moment of stillness. It does not shout, but if you listen closely, you can hear it in every corner of life. Happiness is also not selfish. It does not bloom when we grasp for ourselves alone. It blossoms when we open our hearts to others. When you wish well for others, when you forgive, when you listen, when you love without clinging, you feel lighter, freer. Your happiness and the happiness of others are not separate. They rise together like candles lighting one another without losing their flame. The practice of happiness. You may wonder, what do I do now? How do I live this wisdom daily? The answer is simple: practice. Knowledge alone does not transform. It is practice that does. Each morning when you wake, you can choose. Will I reach first for my phone, or will I pause in gratitude? Each moment of irritation you can choose. Will I fuel anger, or will I breathe with patience? Each conversation you can choose. Will I half listen, or will I offer presence? Do not wait for perfect conditions to begin. Happiness is not in the future, it is in the practice of this moment. Even if you forget, begin again. Each return is part of the journey. As the Buddha said, little by little a person becomes good, as a water pot is filled by drops of water. Little by little, happiness grows, each drop a practice, until the vessel of your life overflows. The obstacles. Of course, obstacles will arise. Old habits of fear, craving, and distraction will return. You will forget gratitude. You will resist forgiveness. You will rush past mindfulness. This is not failure. It is simply the nature of practice. The path is not straight. It curves, it doubles back, it tests you. But each time you return, you strengthen your heart. Remember, the purpose is not perfection, but persistence. Even falling is part of walking, the gift of impermanence. All through these lessons, one truth has whispered again and again: everything changes. This truth, called anicca in Buddhism, is the foundation of wisdom. At first, impermanence seems frightening. We want to hold on, to freeze joy, to stop loss. But when we accept impermanence, a great peace opens. We realize, because everything changes, we can begin again. Because everything changes, suffering does not last. Because everything changes, this moment is precious. Happiness is not found by resisting impermanence, but by embracing it. The middle path forward. The Buddha called his way the middle path. Not extreme indulgence, not extreme denial, but balance. Your life, too, will find happiness in balance. Work, but rest. Care, but let go. Love, but give freedom. Grow, but accept yourself. Seek, but also stop to breathe. This middle way is gentle, sustainable, and wise. It does not demand you abandon the world, nor does it drown you in it. It invites you to live fully, wisely, and joyfully in the midst of it. A final blessing. So, as you close this journey of lessons, remember, the path does not end here. Reading is only the beginning. The real journey begins in your life, when you wake tomorrow, when you face stress, when you laugh, when you grieve. Carry these lessons like seeds. Some will sprout quickly, others slowly, some perhaps much later. Do not rush. Do not despair. Trust that the seeds are alive. Water them with practice, sunlight them with awareness, and in time they will blossom into peace. And perhaps most importantly, be gentle with yourself. Many seek happiness as if it were a prize to win, pushing themselves harshly, criticizing every stumble. But happiness is not a race. It is a homecoming. You are not walking towards something far away. You are returning to what has always been within you. Every breath is already the doorway. Every step is already the arrival. So breathe now, gently. Feel the gift of this moment. Whisper to yourself, I am here. I am alive. This is enough. Let that be your conclusion, not an ending, but a beginning. A beginning of living not as a seeker, always chasing, but as a discoverer, always noticing. Happiness has never been far. It is here, waiting for you, as it always has been. May you walk with gratitude. May you live with compassion. May you rest in patience. May you shine with mindfulness. May you stand steady in equanimity. May you embrace simplicity. May you love with freedom. May you accept life as it is. May you find balance on the middle path. And may happiness, quiet and steady, walk with you each morning of your life.